It's Wednesday evening. You're listening to Mystic Moon Cafe with Wendy Schindler and Travis Short. Every week, we will interview guests that are experts in various fields of the supernatural, paranormal, unexplained, and esoteric. So sit back and let us take you on a journey to educate, enlighten, and entertain as we broaden your horizons. Now, here's your hosts, Wendy Schindler and Travis Short. You're listening to Mystic Moon Cafe. The views and opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the network, or our sponsors.
They're all around me, circling like vultures. They wanna break me and wash away my colors. Wash away my colors. Take me high and I'll sing of you. Sing okay, 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 okay. We are one and the same. Oh, you take all of the pain away, 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 away. Save me if I become my demons. I cannot stop this sickness taking over. It takes control and drags me into nowhere. I need your help. I can't fight this forever. I know you're watching. I can feel you out there. Take me high and I'll sing. Oh, you make everything okay, 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 okay. We are one and the same. Oh, you take all of the pain away, away, away.
All right, and that was My Demons by Starset. Good evening, everybody. It's Wendy, Mystic Moon Cafe, here with Travis.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm here.
hello,
I was just messing with you.
Be nice.
It's
I know.
Friday.
Why start now, right? Why start now?
Right. Why should I be in? I'm not nice.
I didn't say that you were nice. I said to be nice.
I can't. Kevin and I were talking at the radio station today, and I'm not going to go into the entire conversation because it's actually somewhat distasteful, and I'm sure that some individuals would disagree with my take on a couple of certain things. But he's like, "Wow, you're just kind of a dick today." Yeah, I kind of am. It's been one of those days.
We all have our days. Let's face it.
I called Carla as I was coming into the station this morning, and of course, you know, I was having this problem yesterday. I discovered that I was like $200 short in my bank account. There was some charge on my debit card that I didn't know what it was. It was like $200 less in there than I thought.
Yep.
So I was trying to get that taken care of this morning. I was trying to deal with work stuff this morning. My car has decided to, it doesn't really want to be a car anymore. It more wants to be like, a fixture on the side of the road somewhere. It just doesn't really want to get me from point A to point B. So I was having all these problems this morning. So I called Carla, and I'm just going on and on. And then on top of everything else, there's this woman who used to work for the radio station as a sales rep. I'm not going to give you her name, but her name makes her sound stupid, and she is. Cotton Candy is smarter than this woman.
Wow.
And she had sent me this public service announcement for an organization that she's helping, and I told her I'd get it in our news today and Monday. Well, I'm driving, and because I told her the news broadcasts are 6:55 a.m., 7:55 a.m., 11:55, and 4:55. Well, at about 7:08, my phone rang, and she was bitching because the PSA wasn't in the 6:55 news. And I'm like, well, I emailed it to my news director yesterday when you emailed it, but he was already gone for the day. He may not have seen it when he put the 6:55 news together. It'll be in a 7:55. Well, she called me at 7:58. It wasn't in the 7:55. I said, are you paying for this? Well, no. I said, good. It will be on when it's on.
Wow, Travis. That's a heck of a bedside manner you got there, bub.
So then I called Carla, and I was filling Carla in on all this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and on top of everything else, I have not had my goddamn coffee. And Carla's like, and I was like 10 minutes from the radio station. She's like, okay, will you be safe getting here? I'm going to go make sure there's actually coffee. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Justin is on. Justin, did you add me into your... Okay, Justin is here. All right, go back. Go back, Wendy, go back. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Travis, please.
That's okay. I'm done ranting right now.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, okay, and I'm not. But I am for now.
Right. For right this very moment. Let's see if we can add Justin in with us. Add people to this call. Mr. Justine. Justine. We'll call him Justine for the day.
Justine. I love it.
Oh, Justine. Justine.
Justine Gerald.
Are you with us yet, Justin? Can you hear us? Or I see your...
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. I thought I was lost.
Travis, you have been busted. Seth says, woo, I'm here. Travis swore. Oh, man. He
Yes,
does too when it's about coffee.
Yes, I did. Hey, I am... by the way, hi, Justin. Glad you're not lost. And yes, based on what I read, you should belong in an NASCAR pit crew.
Yes, yeah. You know what? I got my back tire off, took the back wheel hub off, replaced it, put it back together, and got here just in time to try and log on to Skype and realize that my password, I didn't remember it. So then I had to go through all of that. So while you guys were playing the music, I was fighting my Skype, but I'm here now. So
Yeah, I used to really, kind of like wrinkle my nose in disgust at people that couldn't remember their passwords. And this is not aimed at you, until I started having so many different things that needed different passwords. Mm-hmm. Like at the radio station, the owner is a stickler for everything having secure passwords, and everything is different. And then what I hate right now is I pay my child support electronically through the state of Virginia. Well, every 90 days they make me change my goddamn They won't let me keep the same password. I have to change it every 90 days. And it kills me. So, yes.
You know what? I had a job where I had to change my password every 30 days. Oh. And it's like, why? Why? Like,
I know. It's like, this is ridiculous. But my ex-wife works for the state, and apparently it is a state mandate that you have to, a minimum of every 90 days, change all your passwords within the state. And most of them make them change them every 30 days. And I'm like, that is just ridiculous because you can't use the same one for several months. I mean, after a while, you run out of things to use as a password. Otherwise, I'm just typing in, Aramaic or something, Japanese, or they're all special characters. God damn it. It's just.
See, that's why people don't remember their passwords, because they have to change them so much.
I know. It's ridiculous. Yep. Absolutely. And yes, Seth, I did cuss, and I probably will do it more tonight. It's been one of those days.
Damn it, Travis, were you cussing?
I'm going to mute him. I will put you on a short leash and mute you, boy.
Seth, if you got a problem with it, log off. You don't have to listen.
Well, actually, I do have to listen. I have to be on here.
I said Seth. I said Seth doesn't have to listen.
Ooh, there's that lovely little red button right up by Travis's name.
Oh, I'm surprised my name isn't red. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Hey, wait, what are you guys talking about? This isn't YouTube. We're not going to be demonetized here.
Well, no, but it will be on YouTube. But we don't monetize it anyway, so it's okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy just likes to keep me on a short leash.
It has to be done.
She only lets me say the F word if it's in quotes, and it's actually part of was it Alistair Stone Chronicles that I got to use it because of one of the characters, or
Probably.
Was it?
Or it may have been no. I think it was Shane Silver's.
Shane Silver's.
Because
yes,
it was always fucking Carl.
Fucking Carl. Carl. Fucking Carl. I get to say that.
That's enough.
Fine.
Oh my God.
Fine.
Seth says, "Let's get Sergey on." Is it Sir J or Sir G?
Sergey.
I don't think so.
It's Sergey.
It is not.
Call him Sergio.
Sergey. He's not Italian. We're going to bring Mario and Luigi on too?
Sure, why not?
Super Mario Brothers.
Hey, we already have some plumbers that are ghost hunters. Why not?
That's true. Does that make Melissa Princess Peach?
Sure, why not?
Oh my word.
Well, I want to be Bowser.
I don't even want to be a Nintendo character. I want to be Sonic the Hedgehog.
I want to be Bowser, but from Sha Na Na, not from Super Mario.
Yes, Seth, we will get the correct pronunciation from him himself.
Yeah,
Seeing as though he's from the Ukraine, I'm thinking it's Sergey or Sergey.
Can't we just call him that Eastern European dude?
But he's really from New York, so.
Fine.
Like, these guys can't even get my freaking name right. It's like I had my own freaking TV show.
And I always kind of dozed off right until after they said his name, so I don't know what to say.
Right?
Wow.
We are like the worst fans ever. We are like that nightmare group of people that show up at a cosplay convention dressed in regular clothes, and people want to know.
I would do that.
I would too.
Yeah.
I would go as myself.
Yeah. And people would ask me, "What are you?" I'd be like, "Well, first of all, I'm weird. Second of all, I'm a ghost hunter, so I'm just going as a ghost hunter."
I'm just me.
So just wear your regular clothes or your ghost hunting outfit, right?
Yep.
Right. Everybody, in case we did not make it clear, the gentleman that has joined Travis and I this evening is Justin Gerald of Shadow Chasers, Paranormal Investigations, and Dust Productions, and what else, Justin? What else do you do these days?
Pretty much that's it. I mean, I'm on a bunch of other...
NASCAR pit boss.
Right, yeah. I've just been, pretty much doing the YouTube thing for a while and collaborating with other YouTubers and doing other types of videos, but I do plan on getting back into the paranormal. I've just had to get some other things straightened out in life before I could get back to it.
Okay.
I just had a stroke of genius, or maybe just a stroke. I'm not exactly sure. You were talking about wearing your regular clothes as being a ghost hunter. Well, you guys have heard about this new restaurant that just opened in Paris, right? Where it's a nude restaurant. And they have that show, Naked Dating and Naked and Afraid. What if we reinvigorated the paranormal reality TV shows with naked ghost hunting?
Oh, God.
I don't think there'd be very many viewers.
I think if I did that, it would get 0. Like, it'd be the scariest damn show on earth.
Well, that's the fun of it. I mean, people would be watching through their fingers, but not because of the ghosts.
People, yeah, but I mean, think about it. Like, that'd just be creepy. A ghost would be like, "Is that your EMF meter? Or are you happy to see me?"
Exactly.
They have that? They have that? Really, Seth?
Oh, my God. Somebody already stole my idea.
Apparently so.
Hey, where's Sergey at? We're supposed to have him on by now, right?
Well, we can call him now if you like.
That's up to you guys.
We just don't know. We would love to. We just don't know what to call him. We don't know how to pronounce his name.
Maybe Melissa will answer. That one's easier.
Okay.
We're totally not even going to answer.
They're like, screw these guys. We're not going on their damn show.
Okay, we are ringing in.
1 ringy dingy.
2 ringy dingy.
2 ringy dingy. Can I do it like the count from Sesame Street? 3 ringy dingy.
Anybody there? Hello?
Hello?
Hi! See, I told you Melissa would answer and we'd be okay. Hi, Melissa.
Of course.
It's Wendy.
Let me
Melissa?
get you on speaker.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Who's this?
Who's this?
Damn it, you have to answer first. This is Travis.
Travis.
But Travis, you just answered first.
God.
Serge. Hey, guys.
Hey, we've been having a debate.
We're not live right now, are we?
Yes, we
are live right
yes.
now. We're having fun. We are live, yes.
Yeah.
Wow, this is going to be an awkward start already. I love it.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, boy.
This is for you. It's very natural.
Yes. Well, we were having a debate on how to pronounce Sergey's name. Is that how it's said, or is it different?
Serge, I prefer, or Sergey is fine.
Serge. Okay, all right, got it. Just
well, damn
sure.
it, Justin was right, so I guess we have to pay him something. I don't know what, but
tribute. We'll pay him tribute.
How you pronounce the name?
Considering that Justin did the interview with me prior to you guys, wouldn't you trust him?
No,
we did, but
not on names. Sorry.
I was gonna say that was the Wendy's thing, and my thing was I watched the show when it was on, but honestly, I couldn't remember the pronunciation of the name.
I love it.
No, Sergey is a Russian name, but it's a completely different name. It'd be kind of like Michael and Mark.
Right.
Okay.
You're
Good
the
to
real
know.
kicker. There should be a bet on who can pronounce his last name correctly. Anyone?
No, I'm
I
not
don't
taking
know,
that
but
bet.
I did win on how to pronounce your name, Melissa. So that's actually pretty cool. I got that one right. So
Baby steps.
oh, well, thank you guys for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having us.
And welcome.
Yes, welcome. And we call ourselves Mystic Moon Mafia because we do try to be a little more laid back and a little more fluid, casual conversation, not so much hard Q&A type stuff. Although we do that sometimes.
Occasionally, it's necessary.
When I think of mafia, I don't think laid back.
Yeah, I really don't think.
Well, we're breathing new life into the Mystic Moon Mafia.
Yeah, they're the mafia, and I'm the Illuminati.
Ooh.
Oh, there's Justin.
I thought you were a NASCAR pit crew chief.
Yeah. Well, I put it in my application, so we'll see.
Okay.
Well, but welcome anyway. And what would you guys like to talk about tonight?
Oh, you're giving us the ball here?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, yeah, we got to put you on the spot.
I mean, I've got some of the things I want to find out about, but you really are kind of just resurfacing back into the limelight. So what are you guys focusing on? What's new in your world?
Well, I mean, I guess for me, the first and foremost is my family here. I'm kind of fortunate to have met Melissa, and here we go. And this is how the fight started. No, but I mean, like I'm now a father, and the kids are amazing. So I'm trying to help them with homework and life, trying to teach them the ways. And I'm focusing a lot on the IT world right now. It's weird. Like I started to after like Justin's interview, I started to like think more about paranormal in general. Like I know I'm definitely not geared anymore for doing investigations. I can't do the.
Oh, I'd love to do them though. You said that though. So. But not like.
Yeah,
not as a profession.
Yeah, I mean, staying up till like 5 o'clock in the morning and not getting any sleep. That's way past my prime.
More like picking and choosing and focusing on a certain area of it.
Yeah. I mean, I love the parapsychology field a lot more. And I was reading up. I love listening to podcasts, too, now. And there's a couple that I've been listening to, that talk about aliens, UFOs, cryptozoology, and then just weird casting characters. That's really kind of what I'm focusing on.
Now, you mentioned something that I, of course, as a father, I kind of latched onto it. You were talking about your kids, and I have to ask, did you find that becoming a father has not just helped you reprioritize, but it changes your entire outlook on everything?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, and it's for the better. Just because, I mean, you have your basic needs, right, that you got to provide, shelter, food, air, water. But then,
well, you don't have to, but Child Protective Services kind of wants you to.
But yeah, I mean, then they have, like, questions, like, that you're now struggling to, like, find answers for, that, and you want to present them, like, the best sort of mentality when it comes to life, the best type of philosophy and morals in life. So, sometimes they get into fights with one another and they're like, he's being mean to me, and you need to break down, kind of get down on their level and be like, okay, why are you upset? Like, what's going on? And when they tell you, it's like, well, he called me stupid. And then I'm like thinking, like, really? This is your main concern in life? This is what's causing the tears?
Oh,
this is life.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some little kids, it's a big deal, and I think that Serge has really, I mean, he's been awesome as far as he wants to guide them and molded into great human beings, and we're really fortunate to have Serge as their male role model in their life.
Well, thank you. I mean, and then on the flip side too, if I was to like tie a little bit of the paranormal to it, I mean, when I was a college student, I was going into families' houses with PRS and trying to help these families who have kids. I mean, we've had a couple of experiences here in the house.
A lot lately, actually, where the children are getting scared at night. They're all seeing there's someone in the room. And, you can't help but wonder, is this just active imaginations? Because they're really into, like, Five Nights at Freddy's and scary stuff.
Oh, yeah, my daughter loves that.
Yeah.
And they laugh at it, like, when they're watching it. But I'm like, gosh, the fact that they've watched it, is that affecting, when they lay their heads down at night and it's dark and they're scaring each other, they're doing whatever, or could it possibly be, something, they always say little kids are susceptible, not to mention Serge has done hundreds of investigations, and, kind of come into contact with some nasty things. You just never know.
Right.
How serious to take it. I don't want to poo-poo it, but I don't want to entertain it either.
Exactly, yeah. And, I mean, our oldest... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, we have a question in the chat room. They're asking what Serge's major at Penn State was. What was it in Penn State? Excuse me. I got that all kinds of twisted.
Something that I'm not following at all.
Something has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, I decided to... and this will be kind of my advice to any, teenagers out there right now. Like, I went into a finance major, and I chose that because I loved math. I was really good at math, and
you're good at math.
And from my parents kind of, because we came from a different culture and they came from a different generation, it was all about practicality as opposed to passion. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, since I'm good at math, let me do finance because I don't want to do accounting, and I don't want to say I regret things. I don't want to say I regret that choice, but it's not what I'm going to do in life at all.
It's not anything major. Yeah. I mean, you're great at that. That comes into play daily.
Yeah. But
I found that funny too when we first started dating. I found out that your major was finance. So it's like, really?
And of course, I hope that I can heed this advice when the kids get older and it's time for them to choose their major, and one of them decides to do something like ice cream tester, and I'm like, wait a minute, slow down.
They want to be YouTubers.
Yeah, they want to be YouTubers. Oh, geez.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna be just like my parents. Yeah. Like, don't get on YouTube. Don't get on Facebook. Those are all mean places. People are gonna scream at you. But no, I've since then been able to discover passions like photography, reading about Eastern sort of methodology and Eastern thinking, and I love the IT world just because of how it's so prominent nowadays, especially with how much scamware is going on, how many people don't really understand what they're getting themselves into and how technology works. That's the part what I find fascinating.
Excellent answer. The same fellow, our good buddy Seth Michael, is asking what drew you to the paranormal field.
Well, I grew up atheist/agnostic, and when I got older, I wanted to explore the concept of God, and I thought that if I had a paranormal experience, if I saw a ghost in front of me, that would kind of be proof that God existed and that there is a higher power out there. And so I slowly started to pursue it because even in college, I remember watching shows like on History Channel, little sort of bits and pieces about paranormal activities that people have experienced, and I thought, hey, let me get in my car and drive around into the middle of nowhere, because that's where ghosts like to hang out in darkness.
Exactly.
And I never, I mean, my mind played tricks on me, but I never did see anything. But when I transferred from my Barron campus at Penn State to the University Park campus, I saw that they had a Paranormal Research Society group, so I emailed them, and since then I joined, and I really got an incredible journey on the paranormal, on spirituality, and that I definitely don't regret. It was just a life-changing moment.
Oh, I agree. That's a fascinating, just studying the history of it and how it kind of got out of hand for a long time, but then how things just, it brought everything together, really. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely feel like the Ghost Hunters, for instance, when TAPS had their reality show put on air, it really kind of brought the paranormal back into the limelight. I felt like prior to that, a lot of people didn't want to talk about it because they were afraid of being labeled crazy and, you know, hysterical. And then it suddenly started a wave where people weren't open to talking about it and sharing their experiences. And now, unfortunately, I have a different viewpoint. It really has almost evolved. I mean, should we talk about this now? I don't know if we should save it. About what? Melissa's shaking her head. You don't even know what I'm about to say.
The Annabelle thing?
Yeah, the Annabelle thing.
I'm like, no.
Right.
I'm like, that's a-
Justin said I
waiting to talk
couldn't
about
start that until he got on here, so it's a go.
Well, I just felt like it would be more segued in, you know, you talked about his experience in Paranormal State, and then we move on to maybe Mistakes Ghost Adventures.
Okay,
No,
but we can
let's-
do it that way, too. That's not a problem.
In my perfect world of my mind, girlfriend, that's what it would be like. But
I'm a wild card, Melissa.
you know, I know.
Well, we have
I mean,
another question in the chat was, what was your most memorable investigation experience?
Wasn't it like, didn't someone pass through you?
Yeah, so the moment that was most, it wasn't on Paranormal State. This was an investigation we did prior to Paranormal State.
But it was with PRS.
Yeah, it was with PRS,
Mm-hmm.
and this was the first time really that I got to do this EVP session where we sat in a circle and we try to bring something out to communicate with us. And it was this house that was an underground abortion sort of clinic back in the early days. And sure enough, as we started to do this EVP session, I suddenly felt this tingling sensation going up and down my spine, and almost like I was, you shiver when you get cold. It was like that, but I wasn't cold. And the investigators to my side, my left and right side, said like they felt something touching their hands. So it was definitely, I was caught right in the middle of it. And I started to tear up for no reason. I couldn't explain why, but I just started to feel sad and I started to cry. And we kind of later sort of hypothesized, I mean, there's no way to prove it, but we thought that one of the children that was aborted in that house was passing through, because we started to generate a white light in the center of the circle. And he was kind of trying to find his mom. And we felt that he had passed through my body to try to get to that white light.
Oh, wow.
So it was really that kind of experience that it's weird with the paranormal, right? Because none of the experience I had, I would say, was like, I to this day, I will always second guess all my experiences. I can think right now and go like, well, maybe I was just caught up in the hysteria, the hype of something, and that's what generated that feeling and sensation. But then on the flip side, I haven't experienced anything like that since then, and it was so surreal, it was so bizarre, that I can't think that my mind just simply conjured that up.
Right. That's a hard one to, just bring up out of nowhere. Although, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's also possible it was just nerves and excitement, too. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, it was during that same investigation, because we had to go back there a couple of times, where one of our psychologists that went on there, our counselor, he went into a room to meditate to kind of see if he could get a visual sort of image of what's happening there. When he came back and started to tell us what he saw, 3 scratch marks appeared on his forehead and then went away within a couple of minutes. And he wasn't scratching his head or anything. And so that was even bizarre. Again, you're seeing these scratch marks materializing on somebody. And I guess I understand. I know through hypnosis you can have scratch marks appear on your body, but that, I mean, I'm flabbergasted.
Mm-hmm.
Better him than me, that's for sure.
I think I would have been
no
freaked
doubt.
out if that happened to me.
It's impactful because you have to keep in mind, Serge has always been atheist or agnostic, and for him to have an experience that moves him to tears, it's definitely
special.
worth pondering.
Right.
Yeah.
It is, and I've thought about it too. I mean, there is the expression or the term residual haunting. I don't necessarily always feel like that is per se a spirit that you see that walks the halls of someplace that's had a lot of emotional trauma. But an underground abortion clinic would definitely have a feeling, a feeling of sadness, a feeling of despair, desperation, all those things that I feel could be a residual haunting. That's also the emotional side without an actual ghost or entity that you see. It's just a feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, don't get me wrong, because like when we did investigations, we tried very hard. Ryan, at least, he tried to make sure that the information gets passed down in almost hierarchy. So like as soon as he, for instance, spoke with the mystic priest on that investigation, who was phenomenal, how much knowledge he knew, he wouldn't go out and share that with the group and the family right away. Again, and that's another tip, because like you don't want there to suddenly be hysteria where once everybody knows, they're like, oh yeah, I was feeling that. Oh yeah, now I think I've seen this, and suddenly everyone's running around with their heads cut off. There has to be almost like this methodical approach to it where you reveal certain bits and pieces kind of near the end or when it's meant to be revealed. And yeah, one of the craziest cases, I believe Bob, the owner of the house, he had written a book about it as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, don't ask me what the name of the book is.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Long. But I'm pretty sure if we Google it, Google will provide us with the answer.
Most likely. In the meantime, there was a question. Is there anything you learned from your para journey that you would like to share with your kids?
Oh, wow.
That is a good question. Wow. Well, I guess, it's weird because I remember one night when Melissa was at work and Drake came out and he's like, I'm scared because Connor showed me these videos of aliens and things like that, and he's like, what if the aliens come here? So if anything, I would want to try to teach them to not be afraid. They need to respect entities that are out there. And that was one of the biggest things I remember us learning, especially when we did darker cases, when you're dealing with the demonic. You shouldn't be afraid of them, but you absolutely have to respect them. So for them to understand that if, they can maybe say a prayer, whether it's a generic prayer or St. Michael, or whatever they feel comfortable with, whatever they envision in their minds as being a white light. Drake loves Spider-Man, so I was trying to associate against Spider-Man as that concept for him to visualize and understand, and tying that to the paranormal. So it really it's being respectful. And again, this is the time when we can segue about
a great segue.
being respectful in the paranormal world.
Yeah, this would be perfect.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows what I'm waiting for.
Well, I feel out of the loop, Justin, because I didn't find out until like 2 days ago.
So, really quick, did everybody see the episode of Ghost Adventures?
No.
No, I saw it. I told Serge what had happened, and the only reason I saw it is because someone pointed it out to me.
Was his name Justin?
No, actually no.
Sorry.
A lot of people, I'm friends with a lot of people. Obviously, they know Serge and I are engaged, and Serge is actually, he knows Lorraine. He knows Tony Spira. He's worked with Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like, oh, I met her once at a convention. He's worked with her. She knows him. He came up to her on the street. She'd be like, hey, Sergey. Not just like, oh, okay, person I don't know. So it's a little different. And he knows that respect for their body of work, their lifetime of work. And he's also very familiar with Annabelle. I've met certain people in the Ghost Adventures group. Now, Zach, no. Aaron, no. But I've met everyone else, and everyone else is actually pretty cool. I will have to say that I shared it with Sergey when someone pointed it out to me. I said this was the most jackass thing I've seen in a while. And I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. Believe me, I'm not trying to start a war, but I think what he did, what Zach Bagans did, was not only disrespectful, but it was flat out ignorant. And it also set the paranormal research back a few steps, just with as far as it's come, with people working so hard to try to make it a legit science. It set it back. It made a novelty out of it. Made a mockery. My opinion. That's my 2 cents.
Well, I think a lot of people probably would agree. Because, when I heard about it, I remember seeing Annabelle when they brought Annabelle out for certain events. And
you've been in the same room with Annabelle.
Yeah.
Did you ever want to grab her leg?
No. I didn't even want to look Annabelle. I didn't even want to look Annabelle in the eye. I was like,
oh, I hear that. Dolls freak me out.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, dolls are creepy, let alone Annabelle or Robert the doll.
Right, right. Or Mr. Creepy out at Spooked in Seattle, or anyways.
Yeah, I mean, but it just seemed very much of a stunt show. And then hearing about how he was claiming that he was drawn to it. I mean, okay, you might be drawn to it, but like, it felt like it was planned out that like when Tony left, he would go ahead and touch her. And
which is horrible,
right?
Yeah.
Considering the stipulations for Tony agreeing to bring the doll there was the producers, according to Tony, the producers and Zach himself had contacted him and said, "You will be treated with utmost respect. Annabelle will be treated with utmost respect." I mean, it's just shenanigans. It's a shock value, and it's gross.
Yeah, it really is.
Kind of, and I was trying to like think about it a little bit more that night. Like, why is that happening? Because it's so. Zach Baggins aside, like, I mean, I was starting to think, like, is it the general consensus of the paranormal community or the majority of people that watch these shows? Is that what they want to see? And is that why Zach did it? Is he kind of doing this because in some way he's...
For ratings.
Right. And it's like unconsciously, is he like a puppet? And we're all like, saying, yeah, go ahead and do it, when in fact, like, if you were to ask any one of those people, would you ever do it, they'd be like, no, I would never do it, but I want to see somebody else do it. I mean, we want to...
It's like peer pressure.
Yeah.
Almost equivalency of paranormal jackass.
Right.
Just going above and beyond. Like, a good thing I've always kind of had in my head since I found out about this was American Horror Story. I love American Horror Story, but in my opinion, first 3 seasons were amazing. They were the best. Since then, it has all been about the shock value. What can we do that we haven't done just for the sake of doing it, in my opinion? And that's where he's going now. And it's crossed the lines, the boundaries of respect and safety. And not only is it a slap in the face to Tony Spera and the Warrens, it's a slap in the face for anyone who's been a victim of the Annabelle doll. And there's been people throughout history in the past decades that have had their lives made a living hell because of this doll. He's kind of slapping these people in the face too, and I think it's just unacceptable.
Right. I think when he did that, when he touched the doll, and he was being disrespectful, and I think he was making a mockery of the paranormal field. It just seemed like he was just doing it all for ratings, and he wasn't really doing it for an investigation. I certainly would not have touched the doll. That was very, very disrespectful, and I just can't believe he did it. And I can understand.
I'm gonna say, wait a minute. We're going to sit here and say that Zach Bagans did something disrespectful, unprofessional.
Yep. I am.
Ratings related.
Yep.
Hopefully.
I say it ain't so.
Hey, I call it like I see it. I have my personal reasons why I do not like Zach. I'm trying to push it aside and just look at it as what it is. And
other than the fact that he has absolutely no level of professionalism, I'm sorry. I mean, this is I stepped away for just a second.
This
I had
is
an
a
issue.
pet peeve. Yes,
it is a pet peeve of me because the paranormal investigative research world has too much stigma already attached to it. You don't need individuals like that coming in and making it worse.
Yeah.
And he and other individuals have done that. And it's not necessarily, part of it is also the industry, the entertainment industry, begging for that kind of crap to be on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And the simple fact that individuals like that are still on, not still on, but that have been able to remain on the air as long as they have, is a travesty to, honestly, to 2 things. Number 1, to the paranormal research world, and number 2, to just good, wholesome damn entertainment, because it's running everything.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, I always, like, if we were to talk about this a little bit more, I mean, ever since, the paranormal started to grow, I mean, if we were to look back into the 1800s, early 1900s, you're always going to find the con artists, the soothsayers, the people that did seances, not to really draw out a spirit to communicate, but there are people always that have done it for money, for fame. They did it for fun. I mean, we can't forget that seances was pretty much like an entertainment session. You would invite a group of friends over to your house and just have this all-time fun session. And unfortunately, this is something that I've always would have loved to see the paranormal evolve into, where spirituality and science merged. It wasn't science versus spirituality, it was science and spirituality. But unfortunately, it has grown into spirituality and almost entertainment, or paranormal and entertainment, and not paranormal and science.
Shock value.
Mm-hmm. It is, very much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the show Jackass started out as funny, like pranks and reactions in public, and went to people actually breaking bones and eating shit.
Right.
So
yes.
It's like, because everything had been done, they had to push it further and further, where it got to the point where you almost desensitized to it, but yet you wanted to see more and more, because if they did the same old things, whatever. And like I was saying just a few minutes ago, that was my beef with American Horror Story. I mean, American Horror Story is one of my favorite shows. first 3 seasons rock, and then it just became incredibly violent and very gross and hard to take, uncomfortable, to the point where the story wasn't even important anymore.
No,
and I Ghost Adventures has done that.
I would agree with you with American Horror Story. Season 1, The Murder House. Season 2, Asylum. And Season 3, The Coven, were some of the... And they were good stories, and there was good character development. After that, it became simply gratuitous. For whatever. Yeah. Gratuitous sex, gratuitous violence, gratuitous over-the-top, whatever. I hated Roanoke. I thought Roanoke was... because The Lost Colony of Roanoke is one of my favorite... unsolved.
I actually liked Roanoke, but... like the Freak Show, I liked tying Pepper into the story because she's one of my favorite characters. But other than that, Hotel did not like. It's become Roanoke. I didn't like that much, but I like the format as far as taking all these stories that are on like Destination America,
right,
or Sci-Fi. That format of a haunting or My Haunted House or Paranormal Witness, where you've got them being interviewed and then the reenactment. I liked that format. I thought it was cool. But once again, it's like you did something that was immensely successful for like 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to almost top yourself. And what do you do to top yourself? You start to the over-the-top shock factor, which becomes disrespectful. It becomes... where you're almost demeaning. It's almost like you're biting the hand that fed you. I feel like that's what Zach Bagans is doing in this, because he's mocking the whole institution that made him famous. I mean, this was a wedding.
Well, I think
he had to meet Nick Groff, and Nick Groff had actually been into it for a while. And all of a sudden now Zach Bagans is a demonologist and a collector and a sensitive. Oh, please. Just saying.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that particular note. But you were talking American Horror Story, just to kind of round out that conversation. I think it started out as a very intelligent show. It was it took an intelligent viewer to watch it, but what's happened now is it has actually devolved to the point of being a dumb show. I mean, this
is like almost that's all.
I was astounded to find out he was the same person who did Glee.
Yes.
Then I could see it like Asylum, where you had a little dance number with the name game, and I'm like, this is genius. This is amazing. But now it just seems like it's almost gotten to the point where they just expect above and beyond, and he's just let it be viewed by people that... I don't want to say viewed by people that aren't intelligent. That would be... I'd get haters, but it did used to be... You had to kind of have... It was an intelligence, a dark humor, where you have to be intelligent to understand the humor. Something like American Beauty, or even a Pulp Fiction, where it's a dark humor, but there's also the dark story that goes with it. Now it's just kind of free-for-all.
That's almost like every TV show now, though. They've pretty much dumbed everything down. Like everything I've seen, anyways, currently.
No, absolutely. I mean, hell, it is the dumbing down of America.
Yeah.
Kind of started November 2016, but I'm just going to shut up there and not even go in that direction.
American Horror Story, when it came out, it was the smartest thing I had seen in a while.
Yes.
And I've become a little, to the point where this season, I watched the first 2 episodes, and it literally made me uncomfortable. But my friend said it's great, so I've been DVRing it, so I will eventually binge it. But I used to be hungry for it. Like I couldn't wait to do. I wouldn't DVR it. I'd watch it the minute it came on, and I just don't feel that way about it anymore. I'll get to it when I get to it. Is how I feel. But now the best thing, Stranger Things. Stranger Things is so much better than Horror Story now.
But
I love Stranger Things. Yes, I love Stranger Things.
Well, that's our guilty. Now we have to wait another year to see it because Serge had the idea, let's wait and make these 9 episodes last. Let's watch one a week. Well, we lasted a day and a half.
Yes.
We're like, oh, one more. One more, be okay. Stranger Things is the crack of TV.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You know, I think the only current show I'm watching right now is Supernatural. Like, I think that's the only, that and like
Never
some of the
seen that.
Marvel stuff.
Yep. You've never seen Supernatural? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
Justin.
I've never.
That's blasphemy.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, no, and you know, I've never seen Riverdale either, and everyone says, oh, you got to watch Riverdale. Well,
You-
I haven't yet.
You
It's
definitely got to watch
Okay.
Supernatural.
it's an adult soap opera with high school kids, basically.
Supernatural is where it's at.
Yeah.
So I love. Back in the day, I watched the Melrose Place. I could do Riverdale.
Okay.
Incorporate the Supernatural into the Melrose. Awesome. I'm not going to lie. I do like some junk food for the brain.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. You got to have a little bit of that. Stress relief. Okay, well, in the chat room again, we have a question, and if you all don't want to go down this road, that's fine. You can tell me. But Patty Ingram is asking, has your friend Ryan Buell set the paranormal community back? She thinks he kind of makes things all about himself, and she wants to know what you three think about that, Justin included.
Well, I mean, I think Ryan started on a path of trying to do right in the paranormal. He definitely has. Like, the investigations we've done were all about us trying to help families. Now,
Sure.
unfortunately, when you get into this entertainment industry, it can eat you up alive. And people who don't have experience in what that's like, they can't really empathize with it. And I can't expect anyone to. Has Ryan made mistakes? Yes. Have I made mistakes there along with him? Yes, without a doubt. The best thing that Ryan and myself included, anyone in Paris can do, who feels any shame or guilt or whatever, is to change things around, to now learn from their mistakes and move forward and become a better person, and then educate people along with that journey.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't necessarily sit here and agree that he's. I mean, because people have asked us always, like, about our evidence, but we've never gone out there to fake evidence for ratings. That was against our principle, our morals. I mean, we were there to help families, and I believe that core value is still within all of us. It's kind of the thing that I will always take away from PRS. It's to try to help people.
That's excellent. I like that answer.
I agree. I think people make mistakes in life. I have made some mistakes, and I just think that
Even you?
even me, especially me. I've definitely, maybe too many that I can count. But the point is that I think Sergey's right. You're supposed to learn from those mistakes and educate others. I completely agree with that. And I don't think that, like, whatever happened with Ryan happened after, everything happened after the show and pretty much after he was done in investigating. And I don't think he really hurt the paranormal field. I mean, is everybody still there? Am I cut off? What
No,
happened?
you're still there. I can hear you anyway.
Okay. Okay. I thought you guys were getting mad.
No, we were listening. That's all.
I mean, I don't think he hurt the paranormal field. I think that Ryan was and is a good investigator. I just, of course, he's getting his life back together, and he's trying to enrich his life now. I think that's a good thing. And so those are my views on it.
Sounds like.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna agree with you, and just I mean, I'm friends with Ryan too, and what I can see, sticking closer to the question, like, do you feel he's, kind of done an injustice and making it all about himself now? I can understand where that question's coming from, because it is confusing to fans, and we have to look at it like we're all involved in the paranormal community, or like Serge and I are friends with Ryan, so we're seeing it from a different view. But from a fan's view, it might look like, oh yeah, he was doing this, and now he just talks about himself. Well, I think, like what Sergey said, he set out, helping families. The intent was it was research on behalf of the paranormal, which was his passion. But in the context of that, it kind of got across to where he became almost like a martyr for people, or a god, because he was so good with families. He was such a good investigator. And I think it was really difficult for people as far as fans, when they found out he had fallen on hard times or made bad decisions. When you put someone who's a role model on a pedestal and they fall, it's very hard to understand or wrap your head around.
Yep.
And so now what they're looking at is Ryan doing Facebook. Exactly. So what they're looking at now is Ryan doing Facebook Lives or whatever, where he is talking a lot about himself, his recovery, whereas what they had saw in the past was always about him helping other people. So it might be confusing to them to be like, oh, he went from helping people to just talking about himself. Well, it is hard to separate that TV persona from real life. Yes, he was helping a lot of people, but now he is talking about his recovery and his real life. So I can see where that could get mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's even possible with him talking about his recovery that he can help somebody else and feel more empowered to help themselves out of a similar situation.
Yeah, maybe somebody else is going through it.
I've seen a lot of that happening on his fan page and what have you. I've seen a lot of people coming forward and being like, oh, wow, you're an inspiration. I'm going through this too. And I think that's great, because you're taking the paranormal completely out of the equation at that point. And it's more just like people who are in recovery. And addiction's an epidemic for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So the serious stuff is behind us. What would you like to talk about next?
Yay!
Yay! Meanwhile, on to more fun stuff. I guess Travis is gone now again.
He's here.
Here.
I just had to put a phone call, follow-up phone call into the police to see if they were checking on my employee. So
the call's coming from inside the station.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes my 9-to-5 job bleeds into the fun stuff on the radio show. So
right.
I apologize.
Well,
I
go
was
ahead,
gonna,
Travis, please.
I was going to follow up on what Melissa, Serge, and Justin were saying there. It is difficult when someone has been thrust into the public eye, whether it's on television or it's in an office or in a place of leadership, and then they do make a mistake and they fall. Many times what happens is it's a lot like being in quicksand. The more they struggle to try to get themselves out, the more all they do is more damage.
Right.
And that seems to have been the case in this instance, and in other instances. And it's like one bad mistake leads to another bad mistake, leads to another bad mistake, leads to another, and before you know it, it's this domino effect. And not only have you impacted your life, but then, unfortunately, everyone that you have been associated with becomes impacted. And they become under scrutiny themselves for all types of things. And it really is a very, very difficult situation to be in.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you completely there.
Well, Serge took a lot of the brunt. Well, I took the brunt sticking up for him, because Serge actually was not very involved in social media. I am mainly, for my family and friends, but throughout the past year and a half, it has been a struggle because we've been under attack. anyone who's ever, been friends with Ryan or, outside of an event or something that people pay to go to, when they see that you've hung out with Ryan at your home or his home or, been a part of his past, well, where were you? What are you doing? And it's such a double-edged sword. I mean, literally damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
If you're saying you support him, I'm here with him, I'm taking a picture with him, then we're enabling him. But if we do distance ourselves, then we're turning our backs on him and we're bad friends. So it's like you cannot win. At all. So, a lot of people ask why we stayed silent through a lot of what was going on. That was one of the reasons, absolutely, because you can't win.
Yeah.
If Ryan's hanging out in Myrtle Beach, then I must be enabling him. But if I'm like, yeah, I'm not, gonna help him because I don't want to, then you're turning your back on him. You're horrible. It's just, this is equal amount of hate on either end of the spectrum.
Yes.
It was very hard for us to find a happy medium as friends, to be supportive, and we've always been supportive of his recovery, but more being supportive, like we're here for emotional support. We're not going to give you financial support at this point, and we're not going to do this or that. It was such a tightrope. I mean, just gray area became just thin line. And even in that, a lot of people found reasons to have a problem with anything. So we remain pretty on the down low.
But I think, again, the people who have experience of living or, loving an addict can understand that sort of gray area where
it's so hard.
Part your heart tells you, no, I need to do this, but then, if you do it, it's just going to lead to a mistake. It's hard to trust. It's hard to think that things are going to be different this time around. Anyone that's associated with an addict has probably heard the same old cliche lines. So from here on in, really it's now Ryan has, I think, a different sort of journey, and he's got different sets of responsibilities that he's doing, and the biggest thing is hopefully he's doing it for himself. He's not going to be doing this to appease people. That will just come naturally, the regaining the trust of the community, the fans, the supporters, and from this point on, it could be a blessing in a way where, as we've talked about it, other people will think that there's hope, that somebody that they care about can change as well and get their life back.
Very well said. Hopefully so. I almost feel like we should have him on to be able to, rebut these questions, but then again, you're doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, we would never, throw Ryan in the bus. We are friends with Ryan. We support his recovery, absolutely. That was another reason, and we've talked about this with Justin in the interview we did with him, that we were kind of vague. A lot of people said we were too vague. Well, that was the reason. We didn't want to come out and
talk on behalf of him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now that Ryan has come out and been very open and candid about his addiction, it's so much easier now. So when people ask, why now are you guys speaking, it's because now we feel we kind of can, because Ryan has. There was so much under wraps before he came out and admitted it and owned it, which he's done a great job of. And so candidly about it, it wasn't our story to tell.
Right.
So if we did avoid questions on it, it would seem like, we're being shady. Well, no, we weren't being shady. We just did not want to bring someone else's personal issues out into light when it wasn't our story.
Mm-hmm. It's again very well said. But yeah, I have my cousin's daughter got addicted to painkillers when she had a sports injury to a knee, and she had had a heroin overdose and died from it a year and a half ago.
Wow.
So, yeah, you know, it's
Yeah, because all overdose, they lead to each other. Yeah, absolutely.
right. Yeah,
It is.
God.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, just a whole sad situation there. But
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, Seth wants to know, Melissa, how you're how you became involved in the paranormal and what led to it, and what's going on there.
Well, I've always had an interest in the paranormal ever since I was a small child. And I kind of felt like a lot of times, like in school, even like through high school and things, that was just not something people were into back then. It was more, oh, you're a cheerleader or you're into music or what have you. That wasn't really talked about, even though that was always the focus.
Right.
And then when it came a little bit more out into the light, I'm going to say late 90s, early 2000s, I was pretty happy with that because it was always something I'd read a lot about, you know, had a few experiences myself. And what drew me to Paranormal State, I was a latecomer to Paranormal State. It had been on for many seasons before I even watched it. I actually watched Ghost Adventures before I watched Paranormal State.
Traitor.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. You seem like a bunch of whiny college kids. You're not a No, I actually, once I did start to watch it, I appreciated the format because it was different than what I had seen. I liked Taps, I liked Ghost Adventures, in any other documentaries that were out there at the time. But those were mainly like people going into a battlefield or an asylum, something that's abandoned. The format for Paranormal State was a little different, where they were actually going in and helping families. And at that point in time, I'm sorry, what?
I said that's why I watched the show too, but go ahead.
Well, it was such a different format. They weren't just running through a building screaming, show yourself. You know, they were actually dealing with families and people and making a difference. And at that time that I actually started really watching Paranormal State, like sitting down and focusing on it, I had done, you know, through the years, just tons of research on Ed and Lorraine Warren. And the fact that they worked with Lorraine Warren, that's when it went from whining college kids to legit for me. And and I liked it. I appreciated the format. It was very different, even though I was a little late to start watching it. But I became a supporter. I went to a few events years ago, and I had actually met Serge years ago before we actually met and connected more recently and became involved. But I just really liked their mission. I liked the attitude. I liked that they followed up. You didn't always see other paranormal groups follow up. They followed up. And I thought that was really cool. Me personally, for some reason, I've always seen UFOs. I mean, I've showed Justin footage, and it's pretty damn good footage.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's so, I don't know. I just, anything unknown, I like. Because it seems like, you know, our society, everything that we know is kind of controlled by the socialism, these cliques, whatever. When you get to the paranormal, the unknown, anything goes. It leaves you like this little bit of wonderment and mystery, like you felt like, you know, things were magical like a child. And I still feel that as an adult about the paranormal.
Very cool. Now, I believe I read somewhere that you were into the UFOs quite a bit. You liked the research, and you might have seen some even.
Yeah, she was just talking about the footage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
I had to mute and blow my nose. I apologize.
No, you're fine. The allergy season's kicking here in South Carolina this fall because last winter was that cold. So I get it. But no, I wouldn't say I'm like obsessed with like the UFOs or super into it, but I'm definitely into it to an extent. And I know the things I've seen and actually recorded footage of is nothing like anyone else has recorded footage of. So any other thing that's out there, whether it be like the Phoenix lights or this or that, the things like God, I can't explain, and I like that.
I love that.
It's kind of like a camper or an outdoorsman. Almost every inch of this earth has been explored or touched by man. And that kind of like makes it sad and not as magical. When you're dealing with the paranormal or the UFOs or any realm of paranormal, I kind of clump it together because it is the unexplained that we're still trying to figure out answers to. It still is magical.
It really is. I mean, it's weird because like when you think about the paranormal, there's so much diversity going on there, and there's so many theories and schools of thought and opinions that it's weird to even try to lump it together. So if we talk about UFOs, that's one thing. Well, where does like cryptozoology fit into that? Where do fairies fit into that? Where do demons and ghosts, where does all that fit in together? Like you can't, like for instance in physics, they're all trying to come up with this unified theory. Well, on the same grand scheme, like in the paranormal, can we come up with a theory that ties all that together? Or is it not meant to be? And I wonder, will we ever get to that level? Will aliens one day come down to us and suddenly they'll explain to us, this is what happened. It's a collective, unconsciousness, or you brought up the ghosts unbeknowingly. And I do find it fascinating, like how cases of reincarnation are found more in areas of India where they believe in that, and you find less cases of demons. Whereas here in the Western world, we find more cases of demonic activity, ghosts, and less cases of reincarnation. Now, not to say that there hasn't been any, there have been, but there's certain realms of paranormal that seem to focus on different continents, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Now, like when I was growing up and I got interested into it, I had these series of books, and they were amazing. At the time, they were the Time Life books with their own paranormal. Some were ghosts and spirits, some were ghosts and spirits of battlefields, some were demonic. But there were different little ones, and I remember, and it's going to sound so morbid to say, but the one that fascinated me the most was spontaneous human combustion.
Oh, wow.
Different cases, where there would just be like some smoking little shoes left at the scene, like someone just... I was like, hey, if I'm going to go, I'm going to spontaneously combust.
Wasn't that in a movie?
I do, I know what book she's talking about.
Yeah, the Time Life, they're
hardcover.
Mysteries of the Unexplained.
Yeah, they're like hardcover.
They didn't call it paranormal.
But like, when I was like reading about spontaneous human combustion and seeing how like there were cases of like the FBI coming in and they're like doing stories, and then like I suddenly had a thought like, shit, what if that happens to me? Like what if I'm sitting here? Like, yeah, I was like, man, what a way to go.
I mean, honestly, you would go out with a bang, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, it wouldn't be like drowning or something. I mean, they don't even burn. They just... I think that would be the best way to go.
Poof,
That's
you
weird.
go poof, yep.
And people would talk about it forever.
Well, honey, if you spontaneously combust, I will be upset at you. All right.
Oh, good answer.
But if you think about it, is it worse if someone's wasting away from some debilitating disease, or if they just go? I mean,
Wasting away is
better to
worse,
burn out than to fade away.
I think if the rest of us have to suffer, they have to too. None of this easy out shit. You don't get to just go, poof, I'm out of this. No, you can't do that. That's unfair. That's just not fair at all. Now,
question where someone asked how I got into the paranormal, and I do remember those books. They're Time Life books, Mysteries of the Unexplained. There was some on the
psychic phenomena.
Well, yeah, psychic phenomena, the spontaneous, there was reincarnation. And some of those are amazing, like little kids, like 2 years old, that can speak a different language that they've never been exposed to.
Yeah.
There definitely is so much in our science that we don't understand.
That's crazy. Talking about reincarnation, I have been having the craziest dreams for like the past 2 months that
your heart break down?
that I die and I get reincarnated, but for some reason when I'm reincarnated, I remember everything that I know now, and like so I'm like this little, in my dream I'm like this little kid, and I'm all pissed off because I got to go through everything all over again. And it's like, I'm like, dude, I don't want to have some freaking chocolate milk. I want to go to the freaking bar. You know?
I don't want to watch Alma. And then they say, though, kids that have these memories, these vivid memories, they do remember everything. It fades after like 2 years old.
It does fade away, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there is theorists that argue that the light that you see that you go towards when you die is actually the light when you're coming out the tunnel of your mama.
I actually
I've heard that.
I've heard that.
I had not heard that
too.
one.
I have. Yep.
I've actually watched a few documentaries and they were talking about that. I found that very interesting. Like the person dies and
What about the light? Or what if the light is that of the overhead hospital light coming out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which it would be.
That's definitely what they've theorized as well. Or it could just be your brain releasing chemicals to deal with such a traumatic event.
Have you guys heard this story about this Russian boy? He's Russian, and he claims he lived on Mars in his past life.
I saw that.
And he
yes.
can unlock the mysteries of the Sphinx because of a mechanism. He knows of a mechanism behind the Sphinx's ear, and there's actually a mechanism there.
Don't trust the Russian. It's probably a little scam that's going on.
I don't know. This guy actually...
I was going to say, was his name Serge?
Well, he's 21 now, but he had documentaries of him when he was 2. His parents took him...
Wow.
There's footage of him at 2 talking about his life on Mars and that there's no life left there because it fell out, basically a nuclear holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
The people that there got at war with each other. And he said there's still some like him there, but they live underground. And I thought that was because he was 2 and talking about this. Now he's 21 and talking about there's a mechanism behind the ear, the right ear of the Sphinx, that will unlock it. And if you look behind the right ear of the Sphinx, there is something there. I don't know if it's a mechanism, but I mean, it just makes you wonder how people, like, especially like little 2-year-olds like that, could sit and ramble on and on about such a complex theory or situation or talking about his civilization. I mean, that's just not normal.
Yeah.
When
It's
my
like,
kids
how
were
could they
2,
make? It's like, how could they make that up?
Right. I mean, my kids weren't even forming great sentences at 2. They were talking about Elmo and dancing, you know, eating dirt. I mean, we weren't talking about like some underground Mars culture. That's just amazing to me.
Completely, yes.
I mean, there's got to be something to it, I would imagine.
Well, let's go to Mars and start digging.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the thing. All the exploration of Mars has been kind of very surface. Like, that's actually very new too. Trying to find like anything that would even symbolize like water molecules or bacterial life. No one's ever thought to look 7 feet underground. He says they're 7.5 feet under, and they have tunnels and.
Well, Elon Musk is supposedly trying to put a trip together. We have any takers? Who wants to go?
Hey, Serge, if you're down, I'll go.
My dog said
I don't know if
couldn't
Melissa
go.
would approve that.
I'd be fine with that.
Time to get the shovels.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of that movie, The Martian, or was it Matt Damon?
Yeah.
See, and I
potatoes.
I just think of the Martian Chronicles that from the 70s with Rock Hudson.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. Nostalgia.
And everybody's going, what the hell is he talking about? The what? The what? The Rock Hudson? Yes, right. Great TV miniseries, The Martian Chronicles, based on the works of Ray Bradbury.
Of course.
Good, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulls another one out of thin air. Now,
Travis is the memory of the group, so he remembers all of those things.
Yeah, useless memory. I've got all this useless information. All this useless information in my head. Now, we have a 6 degrees of separation kind of connection, and that is, Serge, you guys did an investigation into the Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, on a particular episode. I was the producer of the first feature-length documentary film on the Mothman. Worked on that documentary from 2003 to 2009. We premiered it at the Mothman Festival. I spoke there as the keynote speaker for about 4 years on the religious and spiritual implications of the sightings of the Mothman. I'm very curious about your experiences there in Point Pleasant. Any theories that you may have on the Mothman sightings, and any of the interviews that you may have conducted with the eyewitnesses?
I mean, I think Mount is it's such a morbid place. Like, it is a dying little town where I know
bad things happen.
Yeah, they're holding on to the Mothman, and I'm not a fan of, I would say, cryptozoology is not my top tier of the paranormal. But above anything else, I always found Mothman more fascinating. And it's weird because, I was just watching a show that dealt with cryptozoology, and they were talking about different cases, like Momo, and there have been sightings prior to that of winged creatures and in other small towns. So it was so bizarre going through the woods and going through these abandoned TNT silos, or supposedly
silos. They looked like little well, not little, they were big. I remember
there was supposedly just TNT silos, but when you start to get into the conspiracy theories of where military is involved, you can't help but fathom and think, what do they know that we don't know? And, I remember I even have photos of the bridge because I went out when we were just chilling in our hotel room waiting for the next day, of just photographing this bridge in the middle of the night and thinking man, that would be so surreal to capture something. I think the Mothman was something. It had to have been. I do believe that they saw it. There's too many witnesses to just fabricate something. And that's what usually how I kind of perceive it. If it's just one or two people, I'm going to give it a grain of thought. But when this entire town is plagued by sightings and this tragedy, there's got to be something more to it. It is a tragic event. And honestly, I would love to kind of go back there and kind of see it again, But
yeah. Travis, can I ask you a question about Mothman?
Absolutely.
And this is, since you were someone, I had no idea, but the theories about the Mothman sighting precedes a tragic event, and there were theories that Mothman was sighted at 9/11. Yes. What's your thoughts on that?
Actually, we deal with that a little bit in the documentary film. I'll come back and answer that in just 1 second, Melissa. I'm going to address something that Serge said. See, I don't think Mothman falls into the cryptid category.
It's more of a spiritual.
Yes, it is much more of a spiritual manifestation. Whether it is a demon, a fallen angel, the Grim Reaper, the Angel of Death, I'm not exactly sure. I do believe that it is a spiritual component and not a cryptozoological component. Now, having said that, in researching, because we spent 6 years doing our research, we conducted firsthand eyewitness interviews. We did recreations of the original sightings. We did a 3D composite of Mothman based on the individual eyewitness accounts. We did look at the 9/11 component. Of course, there was a photograph that floated around on the internet in the early 2000s, supposedly of a winged entity flying around the Twin Towers around the time of the collapse. We deal with that, but the one thing that was very, very interesting to us is that the airline that actually crashed into the Pentagon, we actually got FAA flight path data. Based on the data, that plane was hijacked directly over Point Pleasant.
Really?
Yes. It turned over Point Pleasant and flew back into the Pentagon.
Right, because it went across Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
Wow.
That would make sense, actually.
Now, outside
we're
of
talking about... Yeah, that would make sense.
Outside of Point Pleasant, have there been sightings or reports of Mothman?
At that point, though, sir, you have to understand that bridge collapsing, other things up until that point, like the falling of the Twin Towers that hadn't been... Nowadays, it's like everyone walks into a building and starts shooting everyone. We see it almost every day now. It was fewer and far between in those decades, even at the point when the Twin Towers fell.
Yes.
Have there been recorded sightings or reports?
There have been. When we were doing the documentary, as we were concluding it, at that time, which this would have been 2007, 2008, when we were wrapping production going into post, at that point in time, the most recent sightings were taking place in Wise County, Texas, which is in northern Texas. There were a lot, at that point in time, there were a lot of wildfires that were burning, just had started out of nowhere, and they were just destroying that part of northern Texas. Now, the interesting thing about Wise County, Texas, is it is also home to one of the first and earliest supposed UFO crashes in 1897. That crashed into the windmill, and then supposedly they buried the body of the alien in a cemetery there in Texas. So you get this nice UFO component into Mothman as well. Now, in researching in Point Pleasant, there were a lot of other interesting things. The TNT area, where I know you guys went, because Chip Coffey actually went into one of the igloos and was trying to communicate with the entity of Mothman, or the entities. And actually, Chip had the same theory that I had, is that there was not Mothman, but Mothman, that there were multiple entities that were in Point Pleasant. And I drew that, actually had pointed that out about a year before you guys were there. I did it in a presentation at the Mothman Festival, pointing out that you had, not just in Point Pleasant, but there were over 5 counties there in West Virginia, over 100 eyewitnesses, many of them taking place at the same time or almost instantaneously, individuals seeing this winged entity. And there were discrepancies in the description to a degree. Sometimes in the height, sometimes it was 7 feet tall, sometimes 9 feet tall. Sometimes it was wearing clothing, sometimes it didn't look like it was wearing clothing. But the 3 things that were always the same were enormous height, wings, and red glowing eyes. Those 3 things never changed. So I postulated the theory that what people were seeing were manifestations of a spiritual entity, various entities in and around Point Pleasant, because there was a lot of other stuff that was going on in Point Pleasant at the time the original sightings took place. And that was actually when John Keel went, and I did have the opportunity and the privilege of interviewing Keel at one point for the documentary. At that point in time, there were UFO sightings, Men in Black. There were reports of witchcraft and satanic activity, animal sacrifices. All these things, all this stuff was going on in this little town. And this is a damn tiny town. It's got less than 5,000 people lived in this town then, and the same amount of people live in it now. I mean, it hasn't grown any.
Okay. When it's West Virginia, they have small towns.
They do.
So
Capitalism.
now that begs me to ask you, like, why is spirituality tie as opposed to an alien tie?
Or cryptozoology. I think it's spiritual because, in my opinion, I mean, it doesn't fit into like Bigfoot or Loch Ness. This is something that's happening before catastrophic events.
Yes, and it's also something
disappearing like in vapors and thin airs. Where if you see an animal like Loch Ness, it's going under the water. I know he's the expert. No one asked for my opinion, but
I think you're absolutely right. See, that was one of the things that I found. There were two things that really attracted me to the story of Mothman in Point Pleasant. One of those was that, as opposed to other paranormal and supernatural occurrences, where you have Melissa, as you were talking about, video footage of UFO sightings. There have been pictures of Loch Ness, whether they have been substantiated or whether they're refuted. You have, the footage of Bigfoot. You have plaster casts of Bigfoot sightings.
Right.
You have video footage in paranormal investigations of haunted houses, things moving. As much as I detest orbs, people will, have them in photographs or on videos. All of this stuff. But as far as Mothman goes, in those original sightings, as many eyewitnesses as there were, not one damn photograph. Not one piece of grainy video footage.
Back in like the 50s or 60s, right?
It was 1966.
No one had their iPhones to pull out their pocket.
No, they sure did not.
So why would there be a lot of photographic evidence?
You had to be so much quicker than the regular old cameras could do.
Cameras were huge.
They were, but at the same time, you do have photographs of other things from that time and earlier. People out in the woods, people vacationing.
When they're on a fishing trip or vacationing, sure, they might take a picture of Nessie, but one of the more endearing reports of Mothman was the teenagers in the car trying to get away from it. They had no cameras. They were going up the neck in the woods, so why would they?
No, they didn't. But what I'm talking about is even John Keel spent months in Point Pleasant investigating. He wasn't able to capture anything on camera. These kids, I interviewed Linda Scarberry. I interviewed her at length, and this was a woman who was traumatized by what she had seen. I tried to get Roger to go on the record. And it's very funny. Roger Scarberry has to this day never given a public interview about what transpired that night. Never. Linda has. On numerous occasions, and
women talk more.
I'm sorry.
Women talk more.
Well, that's true.
Generally,
that is very true. So the other thing that attracted me to the story was the simple fact that people were traumatized by what they saw, and that this town was still suffering 40 years later. Still trying, as you said, they're clinging to Mothman, and they have. I mean, they've rallied, they've created this festival, and it's actually helping them. They bring in about 10,000 people every year from a tourist standpoint, and I think that's great for them. Yeah.
But again, so why the spirituality side for you, just Travis, but not the alien side?
I'm not so sure that aliens and spirituality aren't one and the same. First of all,
sure.
That's just my own personal opinion. For me, it had to do with the winged aspect. Various cultures throughout the world have these winged entities, whether they're angels, demons, cherubs, even in Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl, all of these entities that have wings that fly. For me, that is a spiritual component. These all have religious iconography attached to them. But again, was it alien? Was it angels? Are they one of the same? I'm a huge fan of Ancient Aliens and Giorgio Tsoukalos, and we have Nick Redfern on the show periodically from time to time. And so
love some aliens, and actually that puts spirituality and aliens in the same realm.
Yes, they do.
Because I'm thinking back on ancient Egypt or any ancient culture, actually, with these ancient alien the broadcasts I've seen. A lot of the hieroglyphics, they put their gods in the same realm as what could possibly be extraterrestrial beings. And a lot of times they will break it down. They even break it down in the case of Lucifer, where Lucifer wasn't really like a demon or a fallen angel. He was, well, maybe a fallen angel, but he actually tried to help humankind by giving them fire.
Right.
And that is, yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things that I've always, like, been questioning, like, why the government would be hiding the idea that there is life on other planets. How would that affect the people on Earth as far as religion goes? What does that mean?
They don't want mass hysteria.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I would always kind of conclude, okay, this is why they're hiding it. It's because suddenly our belief system, the majority of the belief system, would have to change drastically. It's like angels are technically...
Really? People would think it's just a bunch of malarkey like anything else that's out on social media or even in the news now. They just
fake news, it's fake news.
Right, exactly. Thank you. So... I don't know, but I think back then when there was a lot of that going on, there wasn't the social media. There wasn't everyone with a smartphone in their pocket. Mass hysteria would be created. It was just like that little radio show host about the aliens landed and took over.
War of the Worlds. Yep.
War of the Worlds. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
War of the Worlds, exactly. So I don't know, but I mean, I also feel like, I mean, government hides a lot from everyone. There's it's a paranormal. I get like a paranoia from watching Ancient Aliens, but they're talking about Russia actually has its own version of Roswell, or
yes,
we did,
where they had aliens even before we did, like bodies and the crashed remains of UFOs. You know, and who knows? And why wouldn't they share that? Why wouldn't that be in a museum? No, because they're learning from the technology.
Reverse engineering the technology.
Yeah. Reverse engineering, yep.
And anyone who's ever claimed to know anything about it, whether it be through reincarnation or this boy that's Russian who says he lived on Mars, it's all about the advanced technology.
Well, and I think that, you know, you asked why would the government why would they not want us to know? Well, I think there's probably several reasons. Knowledge is power. The more that the governments perceive that they know more than the people, they have control over us. The minute that we feel like we've learned something and we have knowledge, then we become a threat to the government. And government doesn't like to be threatened. I think, in my mind, as someone who grew up, I know, Serge, you said you grew up agnostic/atheist, and I actually have a question for you to follow up on that statement. I grew up in a very, very religious household. I grew up in a very, very devout Baptist upbringing. I'm actually an ordained minister. I don't practice anymore. But for me, if there is life, and I do believe that there is on other planets, on other worlds, that only actually compounds my belief in a higher power. That we were not created solely as a fluke. We did not just happen, or we are not simply the crowning achievement, that we are one aspect of a divine being that has chosen to breathe life throughout the cosmos.
Well, yeah, I mean, even evolution, there's people that challenge that and say that our chromosomes or our DNA actually does not fit that of the primates.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which, and again, and that's what, like, I also try to, like, think about it from this point of view, where when people get upset about the tiniest stresses in their lives, if you were to take a step back and say, like, you are a single soul right now living on this earth, which the possibilities of life on this planet are so small, you know. Like, take a step back for a second and look at how big this place is. Not only Earth, but just our universe in general. It spans, yeah. So I'm sorry, but, like, maybe the speeding ticket that you got, or the wrong order you from like a fast food joint, or maybe somebody just ticked you off sometime at work, it's kind of small. There's no reason to get upset and get so stressed out overall. But yeah, I wish that in my lifetime, like for sure, I would like to get a little bit more facts. You know, I mean, I know there's things that just came out, Trump released about the JFK assassination, and that's not paranormal, but I would love
some... Why would he be releasing that? Because knowledge is power.
Yeah. But I would love that in my lifetime we get a couple of more answers about alien life forms out there.
And something to distract us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mike.
Yep.
And maybe it's not even that. I mean, come on.
I think it is. I mean, why would Trump all of a sudden...
Oh, well, no, that's...
When all this is going on, it's a distraction.
Trump, yeah, aside, but I guess, like, on the overall things, like, maybe we as society, I've always thought about it, we're just not ready. We're definitely not ready to... If we're still...
Speak for yourself.
But
I'm waiting for the aliens to land. I got my bags packed. I'm waiting.
Right? but if we're still like fighting over, you know, the color and borders and walls and this, are you kidding me? What are we going to do? Start building walls around planet Earth because we don't want aliens visiting us? Like, we're not ready.
But you're looking at it differently. I think back in the beginning, I think a lot of the proof from the hieroglyphics from ancient Egypt that people saw were aliens were actually helping mankind. They were trying to guide them.
Right.
Maybe we've gone awry in a way that they're like, I can't. I don't even want to deal with this right now. Like I am with my kids, and they're like, I can't.
They're like, oh man, we screwed up.
Where they were trying to put us on the right path. So maybe everyone instantly thinks of extraterrestrials as possibly being a threat, and I think that is valid. But what if, looking at ancient world, they were hand in hand? What if it's an ally? What if it was a guidance? What if it was something that was supposed to help mankind?
Probably a mixture of both. I'm sure there's bad aliens and good aliens there.
Yep.
And that's possible too. I mean, you look at our universe, we've barely even begun to explore our galaxy, and there's billions. So it would be in vain to say that we're the only intelligent life out there. I mean,
intelligence
I
used
think
in quotation marks, right?
Right? We have the planet that houses the Kardashians, so come on.
Right.
The aliens are looking at us and just shaking their heads like, yeah, we can't.
No. They're going to implode. It's okay. We'll just wait.
They're waiting for us to spontaneously combust.
There you go. Yep.
I told you you can't bell.
We're probably not far off, just saying. But Travis, you said you had a question for Sergey about agnostic or atheism.
I did. I just wanted to ask, after having witnessed and experienced things that are unexplainable, how has that changed your atheist/agnostic worldview? Or
believe it or not, so the paranormal experiences really were not the underlying foundation that caused me to change my belief system. So it really turned out that like when I witnessed something that I couldn't explain, that really made me just question myself and the world even more. I would say what really helped me change my own spiritual beliefs was when I was in my own dark place, and I just simply started to think a little bit differently, I guess. I started to do things like pray at night, and it wasn't really praying to God, it was sort of praying to the universe, of asking, hey, I need some help in my life right now, and kind of being a little bit more humble. And then I started to slowly be thankful. It's weird. Like you don't normally classify this as paranormal, or textbooks don't necessarily classify this as paranormal, but little sort of these self-help tricks of, I'm going to write down 3 things that I am grateful or thankful that happened to me today. And it was sometimes the most mundane things that other people would take for granted, but I would be like, I enjoyed my sandwich that I ate today, and I am thankful that my coworker, maybe bought me lunch. And as I started to like almost empathize with people and humanity, I slowly began to see that my life started to change. And I suddenly then really saw that I believe that there is something out there. I feel that there is something out there, that there is a higher power. Do I know I think it's, when I was growing up, I kind of I visualized God as this man on a pedestal with a white beard. He's sitting on this throne and he's being judgmental in a way of like, okay, well, you for the most part have been good, so you get to go to heaven. And that was just such a wrong way of thinking, at least for me. Mm-hmm. Whereas I just kind of see it as more of, there's this universal light, and that works for me. And I am always grateful for what I have, that my life started to change around, and that's how my spirituality sort of started to evolve and change. So it really, now if don't get me wrong, Travis, if like a freaking alien being comes down and abducts me, Melissa's screwed, because I'm going to be wearing tinfoil hats. And
he's always been afraid of aliens. I'm intrigued on him. He's always like, you've got to protect me if they come.
Hell yeah.
Like, you can't get me. I have my tinfoil hat.
Yeah, he would body with me and put his hat on. That's actually how we met. Well, I mean, we had met years prior, but we met in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. We connected and started talking about aliens and UFOs and footage. And Serge was just like, yeah, I'm deathly afraid of alien abduction. It sounds weird considering I've been a paranormal investigator. I've dealt with demonic cases, but I'm not scared of those. I'm scared of aliens. Mm-hmm. And then I think he tried to flirt. He said, I mean, it would be okay.
Yeah.
If I got taken.
Because like, we'd be taken together.
I'd be too.
Yeah.
And I took it kind of as like someone else could vouch for the story. Like,
be like, hey, if you're taking me, you got to take her too. You just have to.
Yeah.
and I have to bring my camera.
Yes, we need photographic evidence.
But then he kind of like made light of it. He's like, you would just probably claim you didn't know me.
I mean, but aliens have always intrigued me. I remember ever since when I was young, occasionally I would watch the television set with my parents.
The television set. In Russia, it's the television set.
You know?
The telly. He watched the telly. No,
the telly, yeah. and they were watching this one, it was kind of one of those documentary type shows, and it was the abduction on Lake something. It happened where this family went to a cabin in the middle of nowhere for like Christmas or something, and they suddenly hear this loud bang, and they walk towards this light, and they see this crashed UFO site, and it's that docu-film found footage. And in the middle of everything, they're interviewing, cops and everything like that. And slowly they get like attacked by these alien beings where members, of the family, their noses start to bleed, and then they start to disappear until the last person, the guy with the camera who's filming everything, he disappears. And the last footage scared me to hell, where
The Blair Witch.
Yeah, he was like the last one in the house. He walked. I remember him walking into this room, and suddenly the door closes behind him, and it's this alien creature that takes the camera from him. And I remember when I was young, I was so scared by that. But
and then your mom said the book.
Yeah, no. But then, like, I remember rewatching that again, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's like some guy wearing a costume. That is such bullshit." But like, I remember reading, watching shows that how there's implants and
the Alien Channel showing like they've taken metal implants out of people's heads.
There's
they can't explain.
A surgeon by the name of Lear. Roger Lear or Richard Lear, he's actually gone out and he's taking these implants out of supposedly abductees, and he's had them, had the elements sort of broken down and investigated, and it's just sort of otherworldly.
It's like some alloys that wouldn't really be comparable to anything we would use here.
And here's why it freaked me out, because I remember when I was watching one of these shows when I was younger, they're like, well, there's a mark that, appears on your body that shows that you've been implanted. And I remember, like...
It's 666 on your forehead, dear.
But I was, like, looking at my body, and I swore, like, I saw, like, a little mark on my body. And I was like, oh, my God, I've been abducted.
He freaked out over the littlest thing.
I was like 12 years old at the time, and then I was like, part of me, I was like trying to rationalize it. I was like, "Come on, Serge, you live like in a 6-story apartment building with other apartment buildings around you. There's no way aliens are going to come down." But I was just like so convinced. I don't want to get implemented or probed for that matter,
Neither is any woman. But...
No, but there you are.
I think for me, like, the whole alien thing was really fascinating. I was always fascinated with it, but Fire in the Sky, dude.
Yeah.
Fire in the Sky, the Travis Walton story. Yeah, I can't. I mean, homeboy disappeared, the lie detector test, him showing up naked a month later in the vestibule. I mean, is that a hoax? Is it not? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean,
and then seeing now that I've started watching all these ancient aliens, there's been stories of people way before that, like back in the 60s, who claims to be abducted. Their husbands were cloned and died and came back, and I'm like, yeah, this is insane. Like, there's something to it.
Right.
And if you think about it, there were cases of alien abduction way before telephones, TV, social media, anything. People all over the world, and they were sketching the same drawing, basically the big eyes, the grays, which we come to realize, the big heads with the big eyes. Mm-hmm. So how could they all be doing that without any type of communication or comparison?
Well, and then Carl Jung even wrote about it, UFOs and aliens, which is, again, interesting for the time or the era that he lived in. He kind of equated it to how prior to a major worldwide global event, there would be an increase of sightings. And that's something that we've always, thought about.
Like Mothman.
Yeah, well, and then at a global level, during World War I and II, there were always increased sightings. And in general, we started to think about it, how prior to major global events, or even during major global events, there was almost this rise of paranormal activity. Like, what is happening in our world? What is happening on a conscious level, or global consciousness?
That makes it increase.
Right.
I was thinking even the movie Ghostbusters, which is a comedy, they're talking about the Twinkie, and it's a big Twinkie.
Yeah. Right.
Tell them about the Twinkie.
Yeah. Do they make Twinkies nowadays? I haven't had a Twinkie in a while. I would love it.
They do. They stop from it, or they supposedly that was the word on the CD. But as far as I know, they still do. make the Twinkies.
I gotta
Yes,
eat
yeah.
sweets to cook.
You like Swiss cake rolls. That's your sin.
I love my Twinkies.
I've never seen you eat a Twinkie and everyone do
I've never. Well, we need to buy some.
So
You're all about the Swiss cake rolls.
Sergey, you would have been like that one guy in Zombieland looking for a Twinkie the whole time.
Yes.
Oh, I would have. Yeah. That's a commodity that like you could trade for anything. You know.
Yeah.
Gallon of
It lasts-
gas.
No, I'm not tell the story about the Swiss cake roll.
No.
He says, no, I can't tell the story. It's not a bad story. It's actually cute.
So, aliens.
Oh, now we may have to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, what a great guy this is. But it was so funny. I had a friend visiting from Detroit, Michigan. That's where I'm from, Michigan, and my friend Darcy visited. We have a little bar and pub that's walking distance from our home. So Darcy and I went down there one night to listen to music, have a girls' night. She was visiting, and decided to walk home. And instead of going through the front door, we saw the little office, the man cave in our house. Light was on.
Uh-oh.
And she and I were like, oh, let's sneak up and look in the window and see what Serge is doing. And I'm like, yes, let's do that. Then I started like, I'm like, what if he's surfing porn? What if he's doing something really awful? Do I want to see this? And Darcy's like, let's just look. And we went and we snuck. We looked in the window. Serge was playing Fallout and shoving Swiss cake rolls in his mouth. And we watched him. So I'm like,
I was in my comfort zone.
yeah, that's my man. He wasn't doing anything weird or wrong or pervy. He was playing video games and eating Little Debbie. And not in a bad way.
What would you have done if you caught me like sacrificing a chicken and like praising
I
some beef?
would feel like I didn't know you.
Yeah.
Like maybe we should be married.
We need to talk about our relationship.
No, it was just so funny because he was so innocent. He's sitting there playing this video game and then just like shoving the Little Debbie snack cakes right in his mouth. And Darcy and I were laughing so hard we could barely walk in the house. We're like, oh my gosh, that is so funny.
Well, there goes my credibility.
Oh man, street cred shot all to hell.
Oh, please. Everyone gets in their comfort zone in their man cave. You have a man cave in your house that you can eat the snack cakes and play the video games.
That's right.
That's why I know now.
Yes.
I think you men are going to be envious.
I'm going to have my blinds drawn now.
Good idea. Real good idea.
Mind you.
Oh, you've got blinds in your man cave. You're a hoity-toity.
Yep.
Jeez.
Not the clinger. No. I mean, honestly, life is good.
Yeah.
If someone told me 4 years ago I would be engaged to marry a paraceleb paranormal investigator, I knew some, but I'd probably laugh. That was insane to me.
I'm grateful, honey, to have met you.
Mystic Moon Cafe, bringing couples together since tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was addressing a chat deal. Go right ahead, kids.
It's beginning to feel a little bit like the dating game right now, and that's just not cool.
No, absolutely not. We've already dated.
Yeah.
The dating game is setting people up. I'm not about to do that. I'm not equipped to do that.
Did I see
Name
on
one
y'all's
thing
pages?
that your
Oh, like the newlywed game?
name one thing that your partner is afraid of.
Aliens.
Palmetto bugs.
Yeah, that too in the South. We have palmetto bugs. They're these huge monster cockroaches. Only they're not cockroaches. They just look like them. And they're huge. And Sergey screams like a little girl. And so do I.
A palmetto bug? No, I'll kill a palmetto bug.
I know that they make me do it.
Nastiness,
There's
yeah.
a crunch, and I can't.
I can't either.
Hey, it's
That's
okay.
pretty-
I'm afraid of spiders. So.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, just if you have a spider in your house, give me a call. I'll come over.
All right, sweet. If you got a what's that bug? That bug that you were talking about? What's it called?
Palmetto bug.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you see any of those, give me a call. I'll come smash one of them.
There you go, Melissa. Yeah, if I'm at work and I can come over.
Then he's going to come hours away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel safe. Travis, you still there?
No, I'm here. Yes, I'm just listening.
I actually have a question, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer it without looking into your research, but just out of just insane curiosity. You know, you did so much research on Mothman, and there's a lot of theories. There's UFO theories, there's demons, fallen angels, cryptozoology, there's all that. What did you find the major percentage of people that had cited this thing? What was their beliefs as far as, was it an angel? Was it a demon? Was it a Bigfoot? Was it something, just an omen? What was the major percentage of what they thought this thing was?
The people that I talked to, let's say going back to Linda Scarberry, and I'll use her example. Through the years, as is often the case with things like Mothman and Bigfoot, descriptions get distorted. I mean, the very name itself, Mothman, was such a misnomer based on the actual eyewitness accounts of what was seen. Linda Scarberry's own description of what she saw was a tall, slender, muscular man, ashen in color, with what looked like angel wings protruding from his back. That was, and glowing red eyes. That was her first-hand eyewitness account. That is not cryptozoological. That is not an animal. That is not a bird. That is not a moth. That is not an insect. She had a very specific sighting as to what she saw, and she had a very specific description of what she saw. When we talked to all of the individuals there in Point Pleasant, most of them wanted to draw back to the curse that Chief Cornstalk had placed on that area, and that's a whole different line of theories when you look into Cornstalk and what actually took place.
You don't feel like that could be relevant, Native American?
I feel like it's extremely relevant to what was going on. I just to answer your question, that would be like a whole episode in itself to look at what and to look, basically his curse was that area would have no peace in any form or fashion for 200 years. So we actually went from 2003, 2004 and backtracked looking historically at the tragic events that took place either in Point Pleasant or around the town of Point Pleasant, and it was astronomical. One of the things that we did was just go into the morgue of the newspaper there and pull stories, and from the modern times all the way back, just the number of suicides, the number of homicides, the number of car accidents. In a town of 5,000 people, it was astronomical for the number of horrific deaths per capita.
Yeah, that's a small town.
Now, okay, here's what I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here, but now to go along with that, are there any, or I don't know how difficult this would be, but with other small towns that are out there, can we see if other small towns have had something similar happen, where there's been a large number of deaths in a small town?
Oh, I think it would be fascinating to do that research. That was my take in approaching the Mothman sightings, was the psychological impact of something like that. How does it impact a person in the immediate time frame once they see it, and how does it stay with them through the years? It's almost like a form of PTSD.
Right.
How do they deal with it? And talking to these individuals, Linda Scarberry and many of the others, they had failed marriage after failed marriage after failed marriage. They had alcohol addiction. They had drug addiction. They had all of these coping mechanisms that they tried to implement into their life, but their lives just spiraled further and further out of control, kind of like we were talking earlier about Ryan and other individuals who faced those kinds of things, they just kept spiraling in this downward momentum. And the town itself, I mean, when the bridge collapsed, and that was one of the things that we looked at, was the economic impact of the bridge collapsing, which was the culmination of the Mothman sightings. Mothman sightings started on November 15th of 1966. The bridge collapsed December 15th, 1967, so exactly 13 months after the first sighting of Mothman. The bridge collapsed, and Mothman was supposedly never seen in Point Pleasant again. Well, when that bridge collapsed, it destroyed the town of Point Pleasant. When the bridge collapsed, you had to go 10 miles upriver, cross another bridge, and drive 10 miles back downriver just to get from Gallipolis, Ohio to Point Pleasant, which had been just a 2-mile drive across the Silver Bridge. Well, it took them years to rebuild that bridge, so all of the economic development took place on the Gallipolis, Ohio side. Point Pleasant, West Virginia suffered. I mean, you guys were there. You don't even find, franchise restaurants. I mean, if you want a Walmart or a Kmart or a franchise restaurant, you go on the Ohio side. There's none of that in the town of Point Pleasant. Everything is a local mom and pop type of organization. So for me, what took place there was tragic, but at the same time there was this determination of the human spirit that this town was going. They fought back. They fought against the calamity. They fought against the tragedy. They fought against all of these things. And it took them 40 years. It took them 40 years of fighting and putting a statue there in the middle of the town and actually embracing the Mothman, because I will tell you this, my very first trip to Point Pleasant was in March of 2003, and we stopped at the visitor center and asked about Mothman, and they laughed at us and told us they did not talk about Mothman there, and they told us, their words, go downtown to Harris's Steakhouse and talk to the crazy people down there. They would talk about Mothman. Now, that was 2003. That was 2 years after they'd started the Mothman Festival. It has taken them, that was 2003, they were saying that. 2005, they put in a new tourism director, a new marketing person. They embraced Mothman. They started supporting the festival. They've gotten on television. They've gotten international coverage. They brought people from all over the world there for this festival. It really has been kind of a resurgence for them, and they're seeing a little bit of growth that they should have seen 40 years ago, but they're starting to see it. And for me, that is... I'm sorry?
I said, and a healing. I mean, it would
be... Yes.
There's some people that are still alive. Obviously, it wasn't that long ago that... I mean, yeah, they would be old, but that were there for that. And the people that talked about it, it was so horrific because it was right before Christmas.
Yes.
Reported seeing Christmas gifts floating next to these wreckage and bodies in cars. I mean, not that it wouldn't be a travesty if it happened in the middle of summer, but I'm just saying just that added...
it added.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Christmas gifts, little kids' bodies. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know that I could ever recover from that PTSD.
Well, and it took them. I mean, there were still some bodies that were never recovered.
Sure.
I know there's actually a few little kids' bodies that were never recovered. And
then you have to remember that took place December 15th of 1967. Well, if you looked at the news, because we went into the morgue and you looked at the newspaper articles in January, in February, in March, in April of 1968, in June, they're still bringing those bodies in and doing the funerals. 6-7 months after so they didn't, it wasn't just an immediate healing process. That dragged on, and then international news coverage, the AP, the BBC, all these places were there covering, because it was at that time one of the greatest natural disasters in U.S. history. It's still on the top 5 worst bridge disasters ever.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bridge, it was a massive bridge that just collapsed out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. So but I do think, that you do have other small towns that would be very interesting to go in and talk about tragedies. I remember growing up, my dad was a coal miner, and there were always accidents in the mines. And I remember 1982, there was an explosion in one of the mines, and it killed an entire night shift of miners that were working that night. I was working my very first job in radio as a DJ in 1993. I started in 92, 93, Christmas again. There had been another explosion at one of these mines, and the radio show the radio station that I worked for had this. It was an AM station, and in the morning and the afternoon we did what was called in memoriam, and we would read the obituaries from the local newspapers, and it was sponsored by the different local funeral homes. And so twice a day for weeks, I was reading these obituaries of these coal miners whose bodies were being recovered from this explosion, but they couldn't go in immediately because of the methane gas. So this was
also when there's an explosion, it can go on for weeks.
Yes, exactly. And it drags on and on and on. So yeah, I mean, looking at towns where these things have happened and finding these, possible ties back to, to my knowledge, no one has ever seen Mothman in this area. Hell, we've just recently gotten our own, version of Bigfoot in the area, which I've lived here my entire life. I'm 42 years old, and just last summer, people started talking about this Bigfoot creature that people have been seeing. I'm going, what the hell are you smoking? I've been here my entire life. I've never seen.
They don't go to Walton's Mountain. You know that.
I haven't even heard anybody talk about this damn thing.
Well, Victor likes vacation. He likes to go on vacation.
He relocated.
Yeah.
Yes, he's in Virginia now.
He's a transplant.
He's gone
he
out
got
east.
the interdimensional wormhole out.
The aliens could have just dropped him off there.
Oh man, I hate when that happens.
He hitchhiked. It's weird. Like I recall listening to a podcast not too long ago where they talked about another small town in Pennsylvania where they were seeing sightings of a winged creature that was terrorizing this town, and they reported that there was like this white light that they would see, and this one doctor came out and he thought he was being burglarized. He thought like some people were trying to break into his home, and he saw this winged creature. Then he shot at it, and it just kind of dematerialized.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, and then the same thing happened in that same town where the banker, hearing all this stuff, wanted to protect the assets, the money, and he camped out with a shotgun. Saw the same white light, shot through the door, and
they're saying he wouldn't have shot through the door. He was a pillar of the community.
Yeah,
he never damaged property unless he actually saw something.
And so, like this, the sightings of a winged creature, I'm sure have been outside of definitely Mount Pleasant. It would be really fascinating to take a look at it on a historical level and see kind of flight patterns and.
Well, another thing, too, I think just human nature. We see a big winged creature and we're terrified.
Oh, yeah.
If it is an omen, if it is a warning, not really meant to terrorize, and Sergey used that word terrorize, if it's not meant to terrorize, if it's meant to warn,
right.
We're just not capable of... Right, we're not capable of wrapping our heads around that. Mm-hmm. So, of course, we're just going to go into panic mode and start shooting. What if, if someone didn't run, if someone didn't shoot, what would they learn from it? Maybe it is a scary creature. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it seems like a lot of times these are, entities that appear before a disaster.
Yep.
So it might go hand in hand with the whole ancient Egyptians talking about aliens, warning them and guiding them. Who knows? But I do know modern man is just quick to start shooting at things. I mean, I saw a real news article telling people in Florida to stop shooting at Irma. Hurricane Irma.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
What do you do at that point? I mean, I know I would be terrified, but what if this thing isn't meant to be
malicious?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But we just can't wrap our heads around that because we're so little in our mindset as humans that we can't grasp it.
I always try to be personally cautiously optimistic, kind of keep the shotgun around the corner, but go ahead and see what's coming towards you. Don't immediately equate the unknown with evil or something with malicious intent or something. Check it out a little bit. Just be careful.
Well, it's so far now because society in general has gotten so violent.
Yes.
We have not. I'm sorry.
Yes, you have. Shut up.
At the same time, if you look at like the Mothman story, Mothman was not like some malicious creature that was ripping people from the forest and eating them.
That's true, yeah.
No,
you're absolutely
you
right.
never heard Mothman actually attacking anyone. He scared people, yeah, because
right, yeah.
it was scary.
He
It was
was.
something out of the ordinary.
Yes,
But he never attacked a human.
No, there was no. The closest to a quote unquote attack was when the two couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and the Millette couple, left the TNT area driving in Roger's 57 Chevy, and Mothman pursued them, flying and scratching at the top of the car. That's the closest you get to any type of attack.
But was he attacking? Or was he just saying, hey, hold on, this is important?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like a creature of that magnitude, if he really wanted to do damage, he could have.
It'd be done, yeah. And you
At
could
that
do
point.
squat about it.
And
Well, I think-
at one point they said he appeared in front of them as well when the car stalled or was spinning in mud or something. So by that rationale, if that creature wanted to harm them, he would have came in to seal their doom at that point.
Yep.
Maybe it was they had no way to communicate properly with each other without assumptions.
Well, we could
Terror
take that.
on the human end and frustration on Mothman's end. Who knows?
We could take that to say ghostly entities as well. Do they mean to scare, or is it just the only way they can communicate is something that terrifies the human who either can't see it or just, because of the electrical charge in the air, every hair on your body standing up, and so that equates the fear.
Absolutely.
And then the anger and the I must kill it because I'm afraid of it.
Yeah, it just comes down to fear, being human, and it comes down to also ignorance. Like, any entity is bad. Not necessarily. I do think that hair on the back of our necks, I do think the temperature drops, and that could be misconstrued as a field day for fear. I think any spirit is really trying to communicate, even the ones that are residual haunting, that aren't an intelligent haunting. Maybe they're not trying to communicate with you, but it's trying to express that feeling that stayed in its place.
Right, or their story. They need their story told for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Exactly, but then there comes that line with where does that fall into demonic?
Right.
Because so many people say, oh, it was a little kid ghost, and then other people theorize that there are no little kid ghosts. That's a demon trying to fool you.
Right.
I mean,
I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is.
It'd be a hellhound, yeah.
Kid ghosts scare me. Those little bastards are scary as hell.
Right? 'Cause, like, every time you see a kid ghost, they always have like this thing where they run behind you and they have this little laugh, and you turn around and they're not there. And it's just
the kids are assholes in real life too, right? You have them.
That's exactly what it is.
I mean, they are. They're little true. I love them. I would take a bullet for my kids, but they do push me to the limit of what I can tolerate.
Well, I watched the Booth brothers have a couple of documentaries, Children of the Grave, and that's scary.
Yeah,
that's freaky. And then when I watched the movie Sinister for the first time, Mr. Boogie, Bagul doesn't bother me at all. It's those little damn ghost kids that are running, when he's walking through the house with the baseball bat, trying to figure out what's going on, and those little kids are in different positions looking at him, and and running behind him, and it's like, no, you little bastards, just get away, just go back to where you belong.
Yeah, I mean, that's
scary.
really scary. But I guess I want to ask you guys' opinions on this, because I always kind of listen to Lorraine Warren on children's spirits, and she kind of was adamant about little children will find the light because they are light, they're pure.
I agree.
When you see a little child ghost, it's mainly something more evil or demonic trying to trick you. But with that said, I became torn recently. I started watching these things on Destination where they have a lot of theorists, and one woman was actually very well studied, and she said, actually, little kid ghosts would be common because they're confused. Usually, if a child dies, it's something quick, and they're confused. They want to find their parents. They want to find their family. Mm-hmm. They, of all people, would not understand they're dead. And that makes sense to me. So you guys' opinions, what do you think? Is it that children ghosts are more demonic, or is that more a realistic thing where they are confused and freaky because it is a little kid, and that is freaky?
Yeah.
I would think, in my own personal opinion, it's that they are more confused or maybe even more curious and coming back to this plane to check things out and find out what's what.
I don't know if they're coming back. I don't know if they can leave us easily because they are confused. Right.
But at the same time, it would be very... Yeah, Seth, our psychic medium friend in the chat room, he's saying it's both. It could be a combination. And I think that's exactly how I feel about it. Or it could be both
these psychic bases, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. We want to try to, put a number on things sometimes. Is it black or is it white, or is it more this or more that?
Yep.
I think we've heard countless tales where a child spirit who was maybe murdered or died and is trying to have their story told, and so they reach out to a kid that's alive to kind of have them follow. Like, there was one show that we watched where
a lot of kids have imaginary friends.
Yeah, right. Yep. But when we saw this one show where this one child disappeared, and they gravitated towards another little boy, and they led that little boy towards a backpack where and
the backpack wasn't the little boy that was alive.
Right.
It turns out they found something from a kid who had been missing 10 years.
And yeah, I mean, it's so. I think, demons would always play on.
Yeah, they want to mimic and they want to lure you
in. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think there's ever going to be a strict classification. I mean, that is one of the wonders of the
paranormal. Said even children or murdered children are lights of God. They would go towards the light. There would be no question that they had crossed over. But I happen to disagree. A lot of the theorists say children would be more apt to be confused, especially if their stepdad or their mom or their dad, like someone close to them, murdered them. They would be so confused. They wouldn't know where they are, and they would be trying to find their family. So that makes sense, too.
It does. Now that brings up an interesting question, going back to your time with PRS. In the investigations that you guys did, what percentage were hauntings, both residual and active, and what percentage had demonic explanations?
That's a good question.
So, I mean, as far as demonic, there's a handful of the demonic cases that we've done that we classify as dark.
I would classify any demonic thing as dark, but I mean, yours weren't always demonic.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, there were never really.
It's not like Ghost Adventures, where every case is demonic. Just saying.
But with it's weird. Like, you start to see certain patterns where, for the most part, the investigations that we've done, the husbands initially were away, and so the wife, the female, who was staying at home most of the time, would experience most of the activity. There was never I mean, the one.
I don't feel like she wanted to call some attractive college guys.
Yeah. The one investigation that strikes me that I remember was the vampire case, where we went out and there was a single mom living with her daughter, and the daughter was young, and she was kind of reporting this entity coming into this house, and the kid was experiencing most of this, like the nightmares, the sleep paralysis, and they had activity in there, and that's when we kind of introduced the Shakti helmet, or the God helmet, when Ryan tried it out. No, it wasn't Gonsfeld. There was this device you put on your head, and it bombards your brain, certain parts of your brain, with electromagnetic energy. And as he was undergoing this, the little girl started to experience a nightmare. And we had this time so well where as soon as Ryan had reported that he was touched, or he saw that there was a presence in this house, the little girl was starting to squirm and moan and call for her mom. So I know that it's out there that, yeah, the kids are definitely, I feel like, are always going to be more susceptible to the paranormal activity, just because of...
Maybe they're more pure?
They're pure, they're innocent, I mean, they don't second-guess themselves. It really comes down to, I guess, how the parents treat it. If they poo-poo their activities or their senses and discount it. But after a while, it almost seems like it catches up. Suddenly, the husband has experiences of his own that he suddenly realizes, there's something that is happening here, and I don't know how to deal with it. It's weird. Like, the paranormal is always filled with so many theories that even to this day, I feel like we haven't fully gotten there, where we can, for a fact, say this is what it is. We can't say for a fact, okay, this is how we can justify or classify that this is a ghost that had died. It always leaves me second guessing. But I appreciated that, because when we do find some sort of evidence, when we capture some evidence on film, it makes us feel like we're on the right path. I mean, you guys are making me go down a road trip of memories here. I want to try to word this right without giving away in certain pieces of information, but there was one investigation where we kind of found out later on that, or we suspected that there was some domestic abuse in that family. And again, even something like that can trigger, I feel, paranormal activity. Whether it's
almost like poltergeist,
right? It's a poltergeist activity, or we've heard countless stories too of husbands
demonic feed off of oppression,
right?
Bad thing.
And it's such a scary thing to think about, because when we talk about the paranormal, it's not like it's so abundant where we can sit down and study it. It is far and few in between. Everything, I feel like when it comes to this paranormal and the supernatural, a majority of it can be explained away, but it's that 10%, 5% that we are just can't comprehend or understand that makes it so magical. It makes it so intriguing. Yeah, I think that's it's like it draws us to it. We technically we are the moths, right? We're being drawn to the flame of this, and if you step too far into it, you are going to get burned. And a lot of people, I think, do walk away burned. I mean, look at it symbolically. I know I can never live a rock star life, but you have some greats out there that live rock star lives, and they're partying it up, drinking, doing drugs, and they can still perform and they can deal with the fans and they become these superstars. Same thing with the paranormal. Like, I could not imagine myself going into day in, day out demonic investigations without it having some sort of toll on me. And I would not want to.
It did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even if it wasn't demonic, you've told me, I mean, just being in the public eye, having that false sense of confidence.
Yeah.
Just from being on, you had a lot of negative impacts in your life.
And
doing Paranormal State.
And then that's the one thing too. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, maybe you guys. I don't know. Since I've stepped out of the paranormal a little bit. One of the things that I remember witnessing is that when the shows were really popular, it seemed like a lot of people wanted to get into it because of that thrill factor. I don't know if that has died down since then. Like, have people understood that this isn't something that you can just jump into and think that you can handle it? It really will take a toll on your life.
It's going to change who you are.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It would definitely change who you are.
Absolutely.
That's why I think, yeah, I mean, it's being a little bit older in life now, I much prefer more of a research kind of, taking more of a research perspective. I've had my experiences, I've witnessed things where I don't really feel the drive to go out there and experience the paranormal for the sake of experiencing it. I would rather much more research it on a research level and do tests, take things like that I have learned in college, like statistics, right, and bring that into the forefront, and see how that can change the paranormal. But that's a small step. I mean, I think that's where the paranormal community needs to start changing itself. It's starting small. One of my friends, Adam Sedlock, he's trying to run for a Senate position, congressman. And he told me something that I agree with. He's like, if you want to change the world, you got to start on a smaller level. So you don't start running for presidency. He wants to start small and changing the community that he lives in. So maybe that's joining the PTA or following up with your community and the HOAs, and in the paranormal sense, start small. It's not going to be popular, but start investigating and reading and researching and seeing and interviewing people, not for the sake of experiencing the paranormal, but just gathering all that information.
I kind of disagree. I mean, I get where you're coming from, Serge, definitely as far as, like, changing the world on a smaller level. But for me, I'm not trying to change the world. I definitely have things on my bucket list that I want to do as a person, and I'm really under no obligation to change the world. So, we've talked about, you've been to Jillian's Ranch, the UFO ranch, and that was one of the episodes of Paranormal State. Would love to go back there. I guess the owner doesn't let people in there, but you said we could get in. That's on my bucket list. Bobby Mackey's, which I'm engaged to a paranormal investigator, or an ex-paranormal investigator. He didn't even know what Bobby Mackey's was, and I know
I saw that. I saw that in the interview with Justin. How do you not know Bobby Mackey's?
He had no idea. He's like, "What is this thing you talk about, Bobby Mackey's?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like Wilder, Kentucky." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "How do you not know what that is, Serge?"
Okay, I'm going to tell you guys. I work in Kentucky. I live in Virginia, but I work in Kentucky. I'm about 2 hours away from Bob Mackey's. You guys make it up. You call me. I'll meet you there.
Okay.
Perfect.
We'll do it.
Absolutely. I feel like now it's kind of become commercialized where he's like doing tours and stuff, but I think Bobby Mackey loves the idea of a renowned paranormal investigator. We could pull some strings, we could get in and have a nice private tour. I want to see the well. The well in the basement is what it's about.
Ooh.
Gateway to have.
But then what happens if you get so affected that it carries into your life?
That's possible. I mean, that's a risk any paranormal investigator takes.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No. You
You're
are
right.
absolutely correct.
We're going to open up a whole new can of worms if we investigate there, maybe, huh?
Or
I mean, I
not.
don't know. You know, Nick Ross, who I've met in person, he has had major experiences there that have carried over. But, you know, he's married, he has 2 beautiful daughters, and he can maintain. Of course, he's not doing idiotic things like some of the other people he used to work with, so I don't know. He removed himself at the right time, just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if I was to do that, like, I would need to, like, I would love to bring in, you know, Gonsfeld for something like that. Like,
Well, that would be why we would need to have, like, permission from the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Mack, it's very much a nightclub. He does his own music there. So it is Bobby Mackey's. You would have to speak to him. And I think he would love it because he loves any kind of publicity as far as, you know, keeping that alive. That was a huge thing.
Mhm.
But he also loves the publicity of his nightclub and his music. He's actually very focused on that. He was never focused on it being haunted. He never believed it for years. He still doesn't, supposedly. So, I mean, I think just asking nicely for permission, we could probably, that would be amazing. I would meet y'all there. And got some guns, no one's ever done that there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think nobody's done that there. That would be really interesting to do. Sergey, do you have the stuff to do that? To do the Gonsfeld experiment?
Well, the one is actually can be self-made. The other one is not as easy.
well, no. So there's, again, just to clarify, there's the Shakti helmet, which is not as easy.
Yeah, that's
The Gonsfeld is anyone can do it in their
it's like
house.
white noise and then your
right.
eyes.
Yeah, so you can, you know, I mean, and what's great about the Gonsfeld, it really is more of a meditative approach to things where you're looking at a red light and you have a blindfold on it that creates a uniformed vision so that you don't see anything else outside of, and yeah, you're just listening to white noise and you're kind of becoming more, it's like a cheaper form of a sensory deprivation tank. Really what
Altered
it is.
states.
It's like
Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I mean, it's stuff like that would be
But if
interesting
something
to
were
try.
to come through, it would make it that much easier. It's like let's pave the road and point arrows if something's going to come through.
Yeah. The big question is then you have to ask, why would you do it? Is it for the sake of the experience? Is it...
For me, I'm just... Bobby Matthews amazes me, and I respect the paranormal. I'm not saying I would do it all for the research. I might do it just for me, just knowing if I feel anything there. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't be to mock it by any means. I respect it.
I would want to do that because that's been an experiment that has not been done there before, you know. So I mean, that would.
Well, I guess we have a date pending.
Yeah,
do. We have half a plan.
Half a plan.
Yeah.
My car is legal now, so I can be there too.
We have half a plan.
We have half a plan.
Which is better than no plan.
That's right.
They're excited at Bobby Mackey's.
They didn't hear me. You're invited. You all are invited to our wedding.
Oh, why, thank you.
Oh, very cool.
No, I mean, I don't expect everyone can travel, but just,
when is the wedding?
Invited. June 16th.
And you guys can do the gospel during it. There you go.
That's very cool. Well, thank you. June 16th. I'm putting it actually.
And then throwing rice, not gospel.
Birdseed, yeah.
There's a time and place for everything.
Hey, Travis could probably officiate.
Actually, we're having a good friend Doug officiate it.
Ah, okay.
He's actually here us and just an amazing person and good friend of both of ours. So
that's awesome. I actually could. So if something happens, they did not defrock me. So
we're dealing with this with him. He lives in Pennsylvania. I thought when you get officiated, like it's for that state. You have to go and get permission from every state,
you do. You do. Whatever state you're going to get married in, he will have to go to the courthouse. He will have to get bonded as an officiating minister or officiating representative in not just that state, but that particular county. Whatever county you're getting married in, you have to go to the county courthouse. And actually, it's like, I don't know, it's like $25-$50 you pay. I mean, it's just a money racket. You have to pay the fee, get bonded to perform a ceremony in that particular location, and then everything's fine.
How much in advance would the officiator have to go to the courthouse? Like, is it 30 days?
Honestly, it's been a long damn time since I did a wedding. What I would do if I were you, are you guys going to get married where you live?
Yeah.
Okay. What I would do is just go to the county courthouse, go to the circuit court clerk's office, ask them tell them that you have a minister or I'm assuming a minister, may not be a minister, may just be a.
It's Doug.
Doug. Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's in the chat room.
Yeah. Okay.
He's in the chat room.
Just go to the circuit court clerk's office. Tell them that you're going to be getting married. You have an out-of-state officiating minister. You need to find out what they need to do to be able to perform the marriage legally. And they'll tell you what paperwork, how much, and in what time frame it needs to be done. I think the last time that I did one in Virginia, I think it was like $50, and that covered me for that particular county, which is the county where I was doing the majority of the weddings.
And now you know.
And now you know.
This has been so fun tonight.
Yeah, guys.
Oh, it's been fantastic. Thank you for being on. The chat room people have been saying how great it is and that we should definitely thank you and say it's been a wonderful show.
Oh, well, thank you for everyone that's listening. And thank you guys for having us. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
We would love to have you guys back on in the future.
Yeah, we're down for it.
We have opinions on everything.
Did you notice he paused before he committed?
He was like, "Yeah."
See now,
sure.
I gotta be cautious.
now the psychic medium is saying that yes, you will be married to Bobby Mackey's. He said he's just joking. He's just joking.
But I would like to go there. That was so funny.
Yes, that would be a fun wedding. Anyway, okay, well, thank you all. How would the listening audience get a hold of you all if they were so inclined?
Serge has a fan page. You've posted the link to his fan page, the promotionals on the.
And I can probably get there again.
I'll tell you, I go on Facebook probably like once a month.
Okay.
I can see his fan page.
Yeah, that's Melissa will help me take care of that. But like, I definitely wouldn't mind being a little bit more active on my social media account.
You should.
Yeah,
I agree.
So if anyone Any questions? Thanks, Justin. But no, as I told Justin, like I love the format of podcasting. I think like if there's any way to change the paranormal community, like we've talked about how entertainment has changed the format of the paranormal. I think podcasts can kind of help bring it back, because it's almost like that old school era of we gather around a radio station and we turn it on and we just talk, and a lot of it is
definitely 1940s. You're getting around like listening to Little Orphan Annie.
Yeah. So
I love those old shows. I listen to them all the time.
Yeah, it'd be great.
I've been listening to podcasts just because Sergey wants me, and I'm morbid. I'm a morbid person. I listen to the true crime, these grisly crime stories. But you know what? It's interesting.
Yeah, so it'd be great to, like, you know, pick a certain topic, whether whatever happened that week, or just pick a certain topic, whether it's the intention. Like, there's one that I just listened to about the intention experiment, which was a book that Lynn McTaggart wrote about, and I remember reading about it. It's so fascinating how our thoughts can change the world and the environment that we live in. So,
Chronicles of the Future, that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it's awesome to have you guys, and thank you guys for initiating all this. You guys really are sort of hopefully paving the world, or paving the way for a new paranormal.
Well, it's not even, just kind of fixing the damage that's been done with the whole showbiz part of it.
True, yeah.
Yeah, with people touching haunted dolls and stuff.
The whole root of what makes it fascinating and awesome. Not about the shock factor, or can I gel my hair, can I touch this forbidden object, but really talking about theories and thoughts.
And I'm just going to say this, Zach Baggins better hope that the Annabelle doc does not come forward claiming sexual assault.
Yeah.
He will just be on that list with all of the other celebrities out there.
You know, he could. I mean, the Annabelle doll is definitely, in my opinion, cursed.
Yeah.
Who knows what will happen to him in the future?
Now, point to the doll where he touched you.
No.
Exactly.
And the doll moves, yeah.
There's a lot of people coming forward and saying, well, a few years ago, he grabbed Robert the doll, so why is everyone freaking out?
And he's not dead
well,
yet.
Robert the doll,
okay.
You asked permission, which he did.
Oh, okay.
And so that curse is broken. Annabelle does not want permission. Annabelle's an independent bitch.
Yeah.
She does things on her own terms.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, sorry. I'm frogging up here.
I mean, it is so different than Robert.
Oh, yes.
Robert said ask permission. And honestly, I mean, looking at the dolls, Robert's so much scarier to me because he is a custom-made sailor doll that is unique. He is not a franchise. The real Annabelle is Raggedy Ann.
Yeah.
I had a Raggedy Ann doll that I carried around for 3 years in my childhood. My mom, every picture of me from like 2 to 5, I'm carrying around Annabelle, technically, because it's Raggedy Ann. But it's like a franchise doll. Now I get it, it's a specific doll is haunted. Robert the doll to me is a little more creepy because there's no other dolls like that. But it all comes down to the respect, the permissions, the case by case basis of those. And we were saying earlier, all dolls are kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a Steve Urkel doll when I was a kid, and it scared the hell out of me. I was afraid that...
It scared me too. Justin, only you would have that. Why would you have that?
Steve Urkel in person is going to scare
For real.
Why would you have that?
I thought my Steve Urkel doll was possessed, man. I tied that thing up and threw it in my head.
For you, or did you ask for it for Christmas? I mean,
I had Steve Urkel, so technically I had Steve Urkel tied up in my attic.
Oh.
Tied up in your attic. Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
As far as I know, it's still there.
Oh God, your poor parents.
No doubt. Oh my word.
Yeah.
I can't believe there was actually a Steve Urkel doll that you could buy.
Yeah, you could
Oh
pull
my
the
God, you
cord.
guys showed a picture first to promote this show, and it was him on the little video game, and I'm like, oh my God, so look at you. It's like the poison, whatever it's called.
The Paranormal State.
God. That looks just the equivalent of a surge doll.
Oh, that's what I want for Christmas. You can probably have somebody make a doll of me.
I probably could.
Yeah.
But I
Sergey
wouldn't. I don't think that way.
When I'm working late at night, you can have the doll there with me.
No, I'm good.
I know. Okay.
I have girlfriends.
Whoa, this is taking.
We drink wine and hang out. It's like we don't need dolls of our men. Not like grown-up children of the corn.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, it is.
Hey, I live on a farm. So
Fine, I'm fine.
you look out my back window and it's like Keepers, Creepers, Children of the Corn stuff because I live on a farm.
Mhm.
It's kind of.
It's that way driving up
Yeah,
to Liska, too.
I'm just kidding, folks.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we probably hit about the end of our conversation for the evening.
Oh my God, it's been so fun. I've had so many laughs. I felt like I knew you guys. That's great.
That's awesome.
Thank you guys.
No, thank you guys for being with us. And like I said, we would love to have you back on in the future. We'll work with you and your schedule and make sure that it's doable. And June 16th, 2018, I've got it marked.
There we go.
Hey, congratulations! Congratulations to you guys. No, well, I think it's great that you guys have found each other through all of this. And Melissa, I know he was finance. I get it. I can't believe that you fell in love with him because he was a finance and business guy. But obviously it works for you. So, obviously, this is a supernatural.
I used to like bad boys with mohawks and stuff.
Obviously,
I mean, I listened to Marilyn Manson, but I fell in love with this nerdy little finance major.
Well, I waited till the right moment to tell her about my past, where I was a finance major.
He was already latched on.
Yep.
That was
Like, yeah, you
strategic
can't take it
planning.
back.
Good show.
So funny. Thank you guys so much. It was so much fun tonight.
Oh,
Thank you guys,
Thank
and
you,
thank you
guys.
for everyone that's
Yes.
listening.
And for being very respectful. It could have gone many other ways.
Not on our show.
nope.
And it was our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good luck with the wedding, or I'm not sure what you said. Congratulations. I'm not always
Well,
the
thank you,
PC
dear.
one.
I was going to say, as a divorced man, I was going to say condolences, but I'm just tossing that out there.
Travis, you're so negative.
No, I think they're great. They are actually they're a very, very interesting dynamic couple. I think you guys are awesome.
Yes.
You really
Thank
are.
you.
So
The unicorn brain penetrates the finance major of Penn State.
That's right.
It's always the quiet ones.
Right? I know. Look
Yep,
out for them.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Good night, guys.
Thank you guys. Good night. Have a
You too.
great
Happy
weekend.
Thanksgiving. Mhm.
Yes.
The
You
leading
too.
cause of divorce is marriage.
Oh, God.
That came from the chat room.
Thanksgiving. No, I like things a certain way. I like to entertain.
Mhm.
And when we have dinner parties or parties in general,
Excellent. All right, guys, then.
All right, bye.
Good night. You guys have a
Good
great
night,
weekend.
everybody. We'll take you out with Sun God by
Well, now, hang on. We got a show Sunday night, too, don't we?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. And that's good because I totally blanked on the name of the group.
I've got it right here.
Okay, good.
We've got a show
Yes,
on
we do have
Sunday.
a show. Yes.
Oh,
Sunday,
wait, no.
Sunday.
Christy Lee
Yes.
is coming back on with us, correct?
Our spiritual healer, intuitive psychic. She just really she sent me some Reiki healing for a neck that I slept wrong on the other night, and by golly, it doesn't hurt right now. So that's fantastic.
That's cool.
Right? Mm-hmm. And she sent us those really cool little pouches, dealy bobbers with the stones in them. We lost somebody.
Oh, was that Justin? I think we lost Justin.
Oh, Justin.
Because I'm here.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here.
It could have been Melissa and Serge too. But anyway, yeah, Christy Lee will be on, and we're working that show up, and we will have a few people lined up to call for and she's going to give them readings, and she will pull cards for Travis and I, and it'll just be
cool.
a fun and old time. Yes.
Awesome. And your group, we were ending with Katie Gillen and the girls?
We can do Heavy Days, or we can do Sun God by the Delta Saints.
Either one. I was just going by what you texted me.
I did, and then I while we were
you changed your
doing
mind.
the show, I put another option up there. That's all.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever you want to do, I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'm easy.
I just thought Sun God kind of went with the alien aspect of the show.
What's that?
I thought Sun God kind of went with the alien
it does.
aspect of the show, so perhaps. Alrighty then, we're going to go out with Sun God by the Delta Saints, and we will hopefully see you all Sunday. It'll be another good time. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend,
always.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
You're looking good for a man on fire. He's getting thin down to the wire. I'm in your way and will not be moved. The tide has finally reached the floor. Pressure
Thank you for joining us tonight. You've been listening to Mystic Moon Cafe. Join us every Wednesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. On behalf of Wendy Schindler, this is Travis Short saying have a great rest of your week.